Lu Ming let out a scream and jolted violently upright from the bed. Curled like a shrimp pulled out of water, he gasped for mouthfuls of air. Sweat dripped from his chin onto the bed sheet, soaking a small patch in an instant. Instinctively, he reached under the pillow. Empty. No gun. Not even that dagger worn down to half its original length. Lu Ming's heart tightened, and his gaze turned ferocious in a split second, the look of a man who had killed, who had seen blood spilled. He scanned his surroundings warily. No mold-stained walls, no stench of dead rats, nor the endless howl of blizzards raging outside the window. Where was this? Lu Ming froze. He stared down at his hands. Pale and clean, free of frostbite, no black grime wedged under his fingernails that could never be scrubbed away. He touched his stomach. It was not shrunken tight against his spine from hunger, and there was even a soft layer of flesh there. Ring, ring, ring. The cell phone on the bedside table suddenly blared, startling him. He grabbed it, squinting against the harsh glow of the screen. The time displayed made his pupils contract sharply. 10:30 a.m., November 1st, 2050. Lu Ming stared blankly at the date. Back. Had he really come back? There was still a full month before the extreme cold apocalypse that froze 95% of humanity to death across the globe. Lu Ming clutched the phone tightly. He remembered every detail crystal clear. 1 second earlier, that bastard Su Fei, along with that vile woman Lin Qian, had cornered him deep inside the shelter. Their supplies had run out. Su Fei had said, "Brother, lend me your legs for food." Lin Qian stood beside him laughing, holding a pot filled with boiling water. The searing agony of flesh being sliced open. A shudder ran through Lu Ming, not from cold, but from the primal fear etched into his body's memory. He exhaled a long breath and flopped heavily back onto the mattress. Soft. So soft. This was what a proper bed felt like. Lu Ming lay still for a while, waiting for his heartbeat to slow before picking up the phone again. He wanted to check his account balance. He could not recall exactly how much money he had right now, but he needed to plan ahead. Yet the moment he unlocked the screen, a pitch-black icon popped up unannounced. Doomsday Mystery Box. Lu Ming frowned. Had he gotten malware? Annoying rogue apps were everywhere these days. He pressed and held the icon to uninstall it, yet nothing happened. He swiped left, swiped right, tried dragging it to the trash bin. He could not even open the factory reset menu. The app seemed fused to the display, immovable no matter what he did. What the hell is this thing? Lu Ming cursed under his breath. His finger slipped and tapped the icon by accident. Whoosh. The screen cut to black. No flashy opening animation. An image resembling a shipping box appeared straight away. The box was crudely drawn, as if the artist had quit halfway and scribbled it together carelessly. For words were printed across it. Today's mystery box. A line of smaller text underneath. Refreshes daily at midnight. Tap to open. Lu Ming paused. A golden finger? As a lifelong web novel reader, he knew exactly what this meant. He just never imagined such luck would fall to him. No cute system spirit appeared. No notification chimed announcing successful binding. The whole interface was deathly silent. Open. Lu Ming tentatively tapped the box. A flash of light swept across the screen. The next instant, a sudden weight pulled down on his hand. Lu Ming jolted, nearly dropping his phone. Something cold and heavy materialized out of thin air within his grasp. The texture, covered in fine droplets, radiating chill. It was a bottle of Coke, the large 2-liter bottle of happiness liquid. Lu Ming was stunned. He glanced at the phone, then back at the Coke in his hands. A line of text showed on the screen. Congratulations, you have obtained Endless Happiness Soda Permanently Iced Version Description. Even if the world ends, this bottle will always remain full. Constant 3 degrees Celsius, rich fizz, sharp refreshing bite. As long as you do not smash the bottle, it will never run dry. Lu Ming swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. For 3 years he had scraped by in the apocalypse. He had even drunk urine to survive. As for Coke, that existed only in his dreams. It was divine nectar. In his past life, an expired, flat bottle of Coke could buy a college girl, a campus beauty at that, on the black market. If it was chilled, it could make Zhang Chong, the tyrannical neighborhood bully, kneel and call him grandpa. SSS. Lu Ming twisted open the cap. The hiss of escaping carbonation sounded like the most beautiful melody in the world. He lifted the bottle without hesitation and tilted his head back, chugging wildly. Ice-cold dark liquid rushed down his throat. Countless bubbles burst across his tongue, and sweetness flooded every corner of his mouth instantly. Lu Ming drank nonstop for half a minute and let out a massive burp. Amazing. Fucking incredible. The icy sensation slid down his esophagus into his stomach, clearing his head completely. This was no dream. The heavy bottle in his hands was real, The sweetness lingering on his tongue was real. He looked at the bottle. He must have drunk at least 500 milliliters, yet the liquid level did not shift one bit. It was still full to the top. It truly was endless. Lu Ming set the Coke on the nightstand. His eyes slowly turned cold. Fate had granted him a second chance and bestowed this golden finger upon him. In this life, he would never live like a stray dog. Not just that, he would become a wolf, a predator that feasted on meat. He picked up his phone and opened the banking app. Balance, 32,500 renminbi and 50 cents. 30,000 yuan. In peaceful times, that was merely a few months' salary, not even enough to buy a bathroom in an apartment. But 1 month before the apocalypse, this amount could buy a few tons of rice or dozens of crates of canned food. It was not enough. Far from enough. To live with dignity through 70 degrees below zero, this sum was insignificant. He needed money. Huge amounts of money. Lu Ming jumped out of bed and walked over to the window. Bright sunlight streamed outside, and vehicles bustled along the road below. Several elderly women chatted by the roadside carrying shopping baskets, while delivery riders weaved through traffic on electric scooters. No one could imagine that in 30 days, this place would turn into hell on earth, with snow burying the ground floors of every building. All these people would end up frozen rigid ice sculptures, or become meat cooking in someone else's pot. Lu Ming drew the curtains to block the glaring sunlight and glanced around the apartment. This property was inherited from his parents. 90 square meters with full renovations, located in the city center. At current market rates, it could sell for 3 to 4 million yuan. In his past life, he had clung to this house as his most precious possession. Yet once the apocalypse arrived, it became nothing more than an ice cave. The windows could not stop bullets, the walls offered no insulation, and the door could be broken down easily. Back then, he and his neighbors huddled in the stairwell, fighting brutally over a single quilt. Keeping the house was useless. Far better to sell it, exchange it for supplies, for steel plates to reinforce a safe house. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Ming scrolled through his contacts and dialed a real estate agent he had saved ages ago, Manager Wang from Lianjia. Ring ring. Hello, Mr. Lu. A greasy voice crackled over the line, thick with artificial professional warmth. What can I do for you? Looking to raise the rent? I should warn you, the market right now. I'm not renting. Lu Ming cut him off. I want to sell the apartment. There was a 2-second pause on the other end. Then the enthusiasm in Manager Wang's voice jumped an octave. Sell? Wow, fantastic news. The market is hot right now. Your flat's in a school district. Buyers will swarm it as long as the price is reasonable. I need the funds in hand today. Lu Ming interrupted again, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Full payment in cash, or a deal that can be finalized within this week. Manager Wang was stunned. Mr. Lu, are you joking? Getting the money today? The fastest transaction process still takes at least a month, unless what? Unless you're willing to cut the price for an urgent sale. A note of temptation crept into Manager Wang's voice, the greed to snatch a bargain palpable even through the phone line. For an urgent sale, naturally the price has to be discounted. How steep the discount? Lu Ming asked while picking up the Coke and taking another gulp. Well, your property is valued at roughly 3.8 million on the market. For an urgent full cash sale, the clacking of a calculator echoed on the other side. Around 3 million. If you want the deposit today, we might have to go even lower. An immediate cut of 800,000. Once, Lu Ming would have screamed down the telephone line in rage. But now, a mocking smirk tugged at his lips. 3 million? In 1 month's time, 3 million would not even buy a pack of instant noodles. It would be worthless scrap paper, too rough to wipe with. If he could trade this scrap paper for a warehouse full of supplies, 2.8 million. Lu Ming spoke without hesitation, stating the number straight into the phone. I know agents sometimes buy properties yourselves. 2.8 million, and I need the full amount within this week. Take it or leave it. I can contact other agencies. Manager Wang's breathing grew rapid. Buying a city center school district apartment for 2.8 million meant a million yuan profit upon resale. Was this kid out of his mind? Or hunted by loan sharks? We'll take it. Absolutely, we can do this. Manager Wang's voice cracked with excitement. Don't look anywhere else, Mr. Lu. I'll buy it. You can come over right now. I'll get the cash ready immediately. Very well. He hung up. Lu Ming wasted no time. He spun around and rushed into the bedroom, shoving his ID card, household register and property deed into his worn backpack. Before walking out, he glanced back at the flat, the home he had lived in for over 20 years. A framed photo of him with his parents hung on the wall, polished spotlessly clean. Dad, Mom. Lu Ming whispered softly. I'm letting the house go. If you're watching over me, Bless your son to stock up on plenty of meat. With that, he turned off the lights and locked the door. He tossed the key lightly in his palm. It made a crisp tinkling sound. Lu Ming walked downstairs and hailed a taxi. Lianjia Real Estate, the flagship store downtown. The driver pressed on the gas, and the car merged into the stream of traffic. Lu Ming stayed busy in the back seat, his fingers flying across his phone screen. He opened the App Store and typed in the search keyword, loans. Hundreds of colorful icons popped up instantly. Alipay Credit, WeChat Microloan, 360 IAU, JD White Stripe, even countless obscure underground lending platforms he had never heard of. Download all of them. Once, Lu Ming would have steered clear of these applications. The interest rates were terrifying. Borrowing from them would skin you alive. If you were overdue for even a single day, collection calls would hound you relentlessly, hurling abuse nonstop. But now, he let out a cold huff. Interest rates? Credit records? What were those? Could you eat them? In 1 month, banks would cease to exist. Servers would freeze solid into blocks of ice. Who would come chasing repayments? Who would carry out debt collection? Back then, the only valuable currency would be grain, antibiotics, bullets. As for renminbi, nothing but scrap paper too coarse to use as toilet tissue. Ding. The software finished installing. Lu Ming opened the first one. Registered, uploaded his ID, completed facial recognition. His movements were practiced, almost heartbreakingly so. Congratulations. Your credit line has been approved. 200,000 renminbi. 200,000. He tapped withdraw. Funds arrived instantly. His phone vibrated, displaying a bank balance notification. Lu Ming did not even bother checking. He opened the next app straight away. Paipay. Credit limit, 50,000 renminbi. Withdraw. Du Xiaoman. Credit limit, 180,000 renminbi. Withdraw. Lu Ming worked like an emotionless money-making machine. He accepted funds from formal lenders and predatory loan sharks alike. Some platforms charged outrageous interest. Borrow 10,000, receive only 7,000, with annual interest exceeding 100%. Yet Lu Ming did not blink an eye. Signed every agreement. All of them. He had no intention of paying anything back. What was the saying? Money borrowed by my own skill. Why should I repay it? In his past life, he had worked honestly, diligently paying off his mortgage. And what became of him? He starved like a stray dog, then was carved up for food. In this life, he would become the most ruthless man alive. Scenery blurred past the car windows. The sunshine was warm on his skin. A roadside billboard read, "Integrity wins the world." Lu Ming glanced at it and laughed out loud. The driver peeked at him through the rear-view mirror with a strange look. The young man looked neat and handsome, yet he seemed slightly unhinged. "Son, something good happen?" the driver asked casually. Lu Ming did not lift his gaze, continuing to operate his phone. "I've struck it rich. Unexpected fortune." The driver chuckled. "That's wonderful news. Hit the lottery." Something like that. Lu Ming tapped the final confirm borrow button. His phone grew faintly warm. Within the 20-minute ride, the balance in his bank account had climbed from 30,000 to 1.2 million yuan. Still not enough. Far from enough. This sum could only buy enough thickened explosion-proof steel plating to cover 2 bedrooms. He still needed the money from selling the apartment. "We've arrived." The driver slammed on the brakes. Lu Ming paid the fare and stepped out. It was a large real estate branch. Red banners hung above the entrance, and several young men in suits stood outside smoking. Manager Wang had been waiting at the door the moment he spotted Lu Ming. The overweight agent was sweating profusely, his receding hairline glistening under the sunlight. He greeted Lu Ming as if meeting his own father. "Mr. Lu, you've finally arrived." Manager Wang tossed his cigarette onto the pavement and crushed it under his shoe. Wrinkles spread across his grinning face. "The money's already inside. Let's talk indoors, come in." He feared Lu Ming might back out. This was an unbelievable steal, snatching a 3.8 million school district flat for only 2.8 million. Once the contract was signed, he could resell it for 1 million yuan profit. Opportunities like this rarely appeared. Lu Ming said nothing, merely nodding and following Manager Wang into the VIP reception room. The air conditioning ran full blast, sending a cool chill through the room. Stacks of thick cash, bright red and eye-catching, lay on the table, alongside 2 bank cards. "Mr. Lu, here's 500,000 in cash. Would you like to count it?" Manager Wang rubbed his hands. His eyes crinkled into slits from smiling. "The remaining 2.3 million is on the cards. The transfer will go through the second you sign. We'll get the notarization done, and I'll handle all follow-up paperwork." In the old timeline, Lu Ming would have combed through every clause of the contract, scrutinizing every single word for fear of being cheated by the agent. Now, he picked up the pen, flipped straight to the last page, and scribbled his signature in one fluid motion. His speed startled Manager Wang. Mr. Liu, won't you read the terms? Unease stirred in Manager Wang's heart. This young man was far too agreeable, suspiciously so. Could there be something wrong with the flat? A death on the property? Or unresolved ownership disputes? No need. Lu Ming tossed down the pen and swept the stacks of cash straight into his backpack, zipping it shut. The flat is clean, no hidden issues. I just need money urgently. He lifted his head. His dark eyes locked onto Manager Wang, sending a shiver down the agent's spine. Process the transfer. Lu Ming's voice was flat, without the slightest fluctuation. Right away, of course. Manager Wang dared not ask further. He quickly grabbed his POS machine and phoned to initiate the transfer. Ding, ding. Notifications confirming incoming funds chimed one after another. Combined with the loans he had taken out earlier, Lu Ming now held nearly 4 million yuan. 4 million. In the apocalypse, this amount equated to a granary, an impenetrable fortress. Lu Ming stood up and slung the heavy backpack over his shoulders. The weight pressing against him filled him with immense security. Take care, Mr. Liu. Come to me if you have deals like this in future. Manager Wang bowed and scraped, seeing him all the way to the doorway. Only after Lu Ming's figure vanished into the crowd did Manager Wang spit on the ground. TCH. Spoiled fool. He stroked the still warm property deed in his hand, grinning from ear to ear. Idiot. Rushing to throw his money away. Gambling addicts always get what's coming to them. Lu Ming walked along the street. The midday sun blazed hot, burning his scalp. He found a shaded spot and took a sip from the endless Coke bottle. Ice cold. Pure bliss. Just then, his phone vibrated. A WeChat notification popped up in the group chat of the company that had cast him aside. At everyone finance notice. Monthly salaries will be delayed. Please understand the company's difficulties. Also, mandatory overtime for all staff this weekend. No leave permitted for anyone. Immediately after, the bald boss specifically tagged Lu Ming. At Lu Ming, where's this month's report? Do you want to quit? Get back here to work overtime at once. Young people these days lack any willingness to endure hardship. Lu Ming stared at the screen. Endure hardship? The hardships I survived in my past life outnumber the grains of salt you've eaten. His finger tapped the screen once. Lu Ming, get lost. Sent. Silence crashed over the group instantly, as if every person had been choked mute. Dead quiet. Seconds later, the chat exploded. Boss. Lu Ming, have you lost your mind? Say that again. Boss. Believe me, I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. Lu Ming wasted no extra words. He muted notifications for the group and blocked the boss. All done in one smooth sequence. It felt incredible. Is this what it feels like to no longer be a wage slave? He used to tread carefully, terrified of losing his job. But now, who do you think you are? In a month's time, you'll either freeze to death or become a beggar pleading for a biscuit. The reason he hadn't created a group chat was simply Lu Ming's twisted amusement. He wanted to watch what became of these good colleagues once the doomsday arrived, especially that rotten boss. He'd just finished dealing with his boss when his WeChat pinged. It was a familiar profile picture, a heavily retouched selfie featuring big eyes, a pointed chin, and half-exposed cleavage. Lin Xian, the same woman who'd gotten him killed in his past life, yet still had the gall to say, "Why are you so selfish?" Lin Xian, brother Lu Ming, where are you? I saw you head out. Grab me a Starbucks latte on your way back. Hot. Half sugar. Also get a bagel from that popular shop downstairs, the cranberry one. Hurry up, okay? I skipped breakfast and my stomach hurts. Her tone was practiced and casual, as if Lu Ming was her personal delivery man. The old Lu Ming would have rushed out to queue up the second he saw messages like these, anxious that the food would turn cold by the time he brought it over. Then he'd watch her take the items, shut the door without a single word of thanks. Lu Ming stared at the lines on his screen. Stomach hurts? Wait until you're so starved you're gnawing on tree bark, then you'll know real stomach pain. He typed 2 words into the chat box, not free. She clearly never expected such a reply. Lin Xian? Lu Ming, what's your problem? All I asked was for you to bring breakfast. Why are you being so petty? I can't believe this. Men like you deserve to stay single. Lu Ming let out a cold snort and muted his phone. Petty? When you're on your knees begging me for a sip of hot pot broth, you'll find out just how generous I can be. He stuffed his phone back into his pocket and pushed troubles out of mind. Time was life now. Every wasted second was a slow suicide. He had the money. Next step was turning it into tangible supplies. But his apartment was far too small, and stockpiling goods in the residential complex would draw too much attention. Tons of rice, dozens of cartons of canned food. Hauling all of that upstairs would definitely catch the eye of the security captain Zhang Chong. The end of the world hadn't arrived yet. He couldn't expose himself. He needed a warehouse, something large, remote, and out of sight. Lu Ming waved down a taxi. West City, Shunfeng Logistics Park. It sat on the edge of the old town, filled with abandoned factories and warehouses. Hardly anyone passed through. It was the perfect spot for what he planned to do. Lu Ming patted the phone in his pocket. The mystery box app sat quietly inside. At midnight tonight, he could open another box. Hopefully, he'd get something powerful. Lu Ming licked his lips, a flicker of greed flashing in his eyes. Shunfeng Logistics Park was nothing more than a cluster of unfinished factory buildings. Weeds grew waist-high everywhere, and stray dogs rooted through piles of garbage. No surveillance cameras, no security guards. Not a soul in sight. It was tailor-made for stockpiling supplies before doomsday. Lu Ming stood there and nodded in satisfaction. "Sir, don't you think this place is a bit run down?" The rental agent, a scrawny man, looked awkward. "It's spacious, but the water and power supply are unreliable. Usually only people storing contraband dare come here." "I'll take it." Lu Ming cut him off. Pointing toward the large red brick warehouse at the far end, he said, "That one. I want it for a month." The scrawny man froze. "Huh? 1 month? Our minimum lease term is half a year. I'll pay extra." Lu Ming pulled a thick stack of cash. He drew roughly 10,000 yuan from his backpack and pressed it into the agent's arms. "No formal contract needed. Hand over the keys, and you can leave. This covers the deposit and rent." "Is it enough?" The agent's eyes went wide with shock. Rent for this ramshackle warehouse topped out at only 2,000 yuan a month. "More than enough. You're incredibly generous, sir." Afraid Lu Ming might change his mind, he thrust the keys into Lu Ming's hand, counted the cash, and scurried away. Lu Ming took the rusty key to the heavy iron gate and unlocked the warehouse. Creak. The massive metal door scraped open with a shrill screech. The interior was empty, spanning around 2,000 square meters, with concrete floors and a high roof. It was a little drafty, but that didn't matter. This was only a transfer station. Lu Ming didn't intend to store supplies here permanently. He planned to use it as a black hole. Once goods were brought inside and the door closed, this space would be his domain. With the warehouse secured, Lu Ming set off immediately for the city's largest agricultural wholesale market. That was where the real operation began. The South City agricultural wholesale market buzzed with haggling voices and the rumble of trucks unloading cargo. The air reeked of raw produce and spices. Once, Lu Ming had found the smell stifling. Now, it smelled wonderful. It was the scent of survival. He walked straight to a stall marked General Grain Oil Distributor. The owner, a bald man, sat smoking. He was playing cards when Lu Ming rapped on the counter. "Boss, I want to buy rice." Without lifting his head, the bald man said, "That pile over there is loose stock, 5 yuan a jean. Help yourself. I don't want loose rice. I need premium Wuchang rice. Also Wadeli flour and Jinlongju cooking oil." Annoyed, the bald man tossed down his cards. "How much do you want? A few sacks? I'm busy here." 50 tons of rice. Lu Ming held up 5 fingers. 50 tons of flour. 2,000 barrels of oil. Silence fell. The cigarette slipped from the bald man's mouth, burning his thigh. He yelped and jumped to his feet. The other men playing cards stared at Lu Ming as if he'd lost his mind. "Young man, are you messing with me?" The bald man picked up his cigarette, but with a dark expression. 50 tons? Do you have any idea how much that is? Several full trucks couldn't haul it all. Even if you owned a restaurant, you couldn't use this much. Are you taking the order or not? Tired of idle talk, Lu Ming unzipped his backpack, revealing stacks of cash inside. Cash on hand. Deliver everything to Shunfeng Logistics Park. Final payment once unloading finishes. He pulled out 2 wads of cash as the deposit. At the sight of the money, the bald man's expression transformed instantly, turning from stern to beaming. "Wow. Sir, please take a seat." He shoved the shop assistant aside, grinning from ear to ear. "You're launching a huge business. I didn't recognize an important client. I'll arrange the goods right away. I can get 500 tons if you need it, not just 50. Deliver as much as you can before tonight." Lu Ming checked the time. "I also need pork, beef, and seasonings. Who's the biggest supplier here?" "Right away. Follow me." The bald man now treated Lu Ming like a god of fortune and hurried ahead to lead the way. Over the next 2 hours, word spread across the wholesale market. A madman had arrived, buying everything in sight. Pork? Whole hogs. 500 heads. Only those slaughtered today. Salt? 5 tons. I want sugar too. Pickled mustard tuber? Laogan ma chili sauce. Clear out your entire inventory. Lu Ming was a heartless bulk buyer. Anything edible and storable, he purchased. Shop owners counted cash until their hands ached, gazing at Lu Ming with awe. Could this guy be rolling in wealth? Some even wondered if war was coming, but glancing up at the blazing sun, they dismissed the thought. Whatever. A fool turns down easy money. 10 p.m., Shunfeng Logistics Park. The once desolate warehouse zone blazed with lights. Dozens of heavy trucks lined up in a long queue. Back up. Keep reversing. Unload. Move faster. Sweaty laborers hauled sacks of rice and cartons of canned goods into the warehouse. Lu Ming sat on a broken chair by the warehouse entrance, sipping an icy cola and watching the scene unfold. This feeling, watching supplies pile higher and higher, was more thrilling than anything. "Sir, this is the last truckload." The bald shop owner ran over. Drenched in sweat, he offered Lu Ming a Chinese cigarette. "Want to check the stock?" Lu Ming glanced into the warehouse. The empty 2,000 square meter space was now half filled. Mountainous heaps of rice rose up, alongside rows of hanging pork streaked with white fat. It was a reassuring sight. No need to check. Lu Ming took the cigarette and tucked it behind his ear without lighting it. "The final payment has been transferred." "Excellent. You're such a straightforward customer." The bald man checked his phone, unable to stop smiling. It was already past midnight by the time he sent the truck convoy away. Noise faded, leaving Lu Ming alone amid mountains of supplies. Cold wind slipped through the door cracks, yet he felt no chill. His blood burned with excitement. He checked his phone. Midnight. On the screen, the icon for the Doomsday Mystery Box lit up once more. Lu Ming took a deep breath. Yesterday had been the new player bonus, granting him unlimited cola. Today marked day 2. According to the rules, small rewards were given Monday through Saturday. They were small rewards, but anything from the system was guaranteed to be top tier. Open. Lu Ming tapped the icon. A flash of light appeared, and a heavy cardboard box materialized on top of a sack of rice at his feet. "Congratulations, you have obtained military warm patches." The crate contained 500 pieces. Used by special forces, one patch generates constant heat at 55 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. Even if you run naked in Antarctica, covering your body with these will leave you sweating. Lu Ming opened the crate and took out one patch. He tore open the packaging, and warmth seeped out within 3 seconds. Blazing fast, these patches would mean life or death in the apocalypse. Many people would freeze to death holding hundreds of thousands in cash, unable to buy a single one. Lu Ming stowed them away contentedly. For the next 2 days, Lu Ming worked tirelessly like a spinning top. He received shipments by day and guarded the warehouse by night. The mystery box on the 3rd day rewarded him with a high-power tactical flashlight. Its beam reached 1 kilometer. It could be swung as a blunt weapon, and it featured a strobe function capable of blinding enemies instantly. Lu Ming tested it. Shining it against the wall nearly blinded him, proving a direct shot would leave anyone rolling on the ground. Time flew by, and soon it was November 5th, Sunday. Lu Ming woke extremely early, or rather, he hadn't slept all night. He sat atop the tallest stack of flour sacks in the warehouse, eyes locked on the time displayed on his phone. 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds midnight. The numbers flipped. It was Sunday. Per system rules, Sunday mystery boxes granted intermediate rewards. If small rewards yielded life-saving gear like the warm patches, what would an intermediate reward bring? A gun? An armored vehicle? Or something else? Lu Ming did not hesitate. He tapped the long-awaited icon without delay. At the same time, he squeezed his eyes shut, silently praying to the Supreme Lord Laozi, Guanyin Bodhisattva, Jesus, Confucius, and even Satan, begging for a great reward. As the icon activated, a dazzling burst of purple light erupted. The glow nearly blinded Lu Ming. Intermediate rewards no longer emitted cheap, white light. This glow exuded an air of extraordinary quality. Lu Ming held his breath, and an object landed in his palm. Cold, solid. It was a black ring, plain with no carvings. Looking like an iron band, its surface felt as smooth and delicate as a woman's skin. "Congratulations, you have obtained intermediate reward, subspace ring. Capacity, 100,000 cubic meters. Properties, time stands still inside, vacuum preservation. Do not place living creatures within." Lu Ming's hand shook, nearly dropping the ring. A spatial artifact. It was real. The most overpowered ability from all Doomsday novels was now on his hand. He could barely imagine how vast 100,000 cubic meters was, far bigger than a sports field. How many tons of rice, how much meat could fit inside? Lu Ming lifted his gaze toward the mountains of supplies he'd frantically gathered over the past days. 50 tons of rice, thousands of barrels of oil, crammed tight inside this run-down warehouse. Store. Lu Ming focused his thought. Whoosh. No sound, no fancy effects. The towering mound of rice vanished into thin air. Not a single grain remained. The floor lay bare, only a few confused cockroaches scurrying across it. Damn, Lu Ming swore out of pure excitement. He turned toward the stacks of pork and flour. Store. Whoosh. They disappeared as well. The warehouse, once so crowded he could barely turn around, emptied in an instant, echoes drifting through the vast space. Lu Ming closed his eyes. Within his consciousness, a gray void unfolded. Rice, flour, pork were neatly stacked and suspended mid-air, frozen like a still painting. Blood had been dripping from the pork only moments ago. Now the droplet hung motionless in space. Time stands still. That meant he could store cooked food safely. A freshly roasted duck placed inside would still be piping hot 10,000 years later once taken out. Ice cream. Steaming hot pot. Everything. Lu Ming laughed, sounding like a madman. His laughter echoed eerily through the empty warehouse. With this ring, he no longer needed it. The entire city was his backyard. He could take whatever he wanted, as long as no one saw him. True free acquisition. Lu Ming slipped the ring onto his index finger. It fit perfectly. He could also make it invisible so no one would spot it. Let's go. Still, renting the warehouse had not been a waste. His stockpile seemed massive now, yet he harbored a far bigger plan that required countless more supplies. He tracked down the rental agent and asked him to keep an eye on the property daily. Greedy for money, the agent asked no questions and readily agreed. Having sorted that out, Lu Ming set off for an even bigger task, acquiring fuel. In the apocalypse, lacking fuel meant certain death. Generators, vehicles, heating, all required it. Lu Ming climbed into his van. He headed for a private gas station on the city outskirts catering to large trucks. The owner had loose connections and would sell anything for the right price. Fill the tank. Lu Ming tossed a pack of cigarettes to the attendant, who leaned in mysteriously. Hey man, want some barrel fuel? Inspections have been tight lately, but I've got stock hidden away. Exactly what I need. How much do you have? Lu Ming rolled down the window, cold wind rushing into the cab. 2 tons. But large iron drums, hard to transport. I'll take all of it. Lu Ming got out of the van and followed the attendant to the backyard. Behind piles of junk sat more than a dozen iron barrels full of diesel. The sharp fumes hung heavy in the air. To Lu Ming, it was the scent of safety. The money's transferred. Lu Ming pulled out his phone, scanning and paying in one fluid motion. While the attendant turned to fetch a receipt, Lu Ming waved his hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All the diesel barrels vanished, leaving only indentations in the mud. When the attendant returned, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. The barrels, where are the barrels? They've been hauled away. Lu Ming nodded toward the road. I have a transport fleet. The attendant scratched his head in confusion. Had a truck pulled up? Maybe he hadn't heard it. Ignoring him, Lu Ming slammed on the gas. Time to leave. He could only pull off a trick like this once. Repeating it would attract suspicion. Now that he had the subspace ring, he had to fill its 100,000 cubic meters of space. Besides fuel, he needed generators, 2 silent Yamaha models, high-capacity storage batteries, and coal. Smokeless coal, slow burning with high calorific value. Lu Ming drove all over the area, stopping at every hardware shop and supermarket he passed. Buy relentlessly. Whenever the van was full, he stored the goods inside the ring when nobody watched. He was like an insatiable glutton, taking everything in, letting nothing out. He kept busy until the afternoon, when hunger struck. Up ahead stood a large shopping mall, with an expensive imported supermarket on the underground floor. Oh, the old Lu Ming had never dared step foot inside. A single bunch of grapes cost hundreds, daylight robbery. But now, it was his personal cafeteria. Lu Ming grabbed a shopping trolley and headed straight for the fresh produce section. M9 tomahawk steak, 1,800 yuan each. He grabbed 10 live king crabs bubbling in the tank. The ring could not hold living creatures, so he would have it slaughtered. Kill this largest one and cut it into chunks, Lu Ming told the staff. The shop assistant eyed the plainly dressed young man with disdain. Sir, this crab costs over 3,000. Are you certain? Kill it. Tired of arguing, Lu Ming pulled out his phone and showed the assistant his account balance. The assistant fell silent. The cut crab meat was placed in elegant packaging. Lu Ming pretended to put the box into his backpack, but it vanished straight into the ring. He picked up several bottles of Matai, cartons of Chunghwa cigarettes, and pricey Evian mineral water. He pushed the overflowing trolley toward the checkout counter. Card swiped. Insufficient balance. Lu Ming calmly pulled out another card. It was a credit card anyway. Max it out. Who cares? By the time he walked out loaded with bags, dusk had fallen. Streetlights flickered on, casting a dim yellow glow. The street bustled with people. Couples walked hand in hand. Children wailed. Everything looked peaceful. As Lu Ming watched them, His gaze was as cold as if he were staring at livestock waiting for slaughter. In 25 days, half of these people would freeze to death. The other half would stab one another just to snatch the box of beef he held. Heh. Lu Ming let out a cold snort and turned toward the parking lot. Just then, a voice called out from behind him. Lu Ming. The voice was hauntingly familiar. Lu Ming's back tensed instantly, as if a venomous snake had fixed its gaze on him. He halted and slowly turned around. Leaning out from behind a nearby pillar stood a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a white shirt, the very image of a hypocritical intellectual. Su Fei, the bastard who had smiled and handed him poisoned wine in his past life, then picked up knife and fork and said, "Brother, lend me some of your flesh." Lu Ming slipped his hand into his pocket, ready to pull a tactical flashlight out of his spatial storage at any moment to blind the son of a bitch. What a coincidence. Su Fei walked over with a grin, his eyes sweeping over the bulging bags in Lu Ming's hands. That look, greedy, vicious, exactly the same as it had been in the previous life. Struck it rich. Su Fei adjusted his glasses to hide the glint in his eyes. Buying all these nice things and not calling your buddy. What's this? You get rich and forget your old friend. Su Fei stretched out his hand, aiming to clap Lu Ming on the shoulder. His fingers were long and well-defined. Lu Ming remembered all too clearly. This was the hand that wielded the boning knife, slicing chunks of flesh from his thigh little by little. Su Fei had been smiling the whole time, cutting away as he spoke. Don't blame me, Mingzi. I'm starving too. The searing agony, the utter despair. Lu Ming instinctively stepped back, evading the hand. Su Fei's arm hung suspended in midair, awkward. He pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses to mask the malice flashing in his eyes, yet that revolting fake smile never left his face. Lu Ming, what's wrong with you? We haven't seen each other for a few days, and you're acting so distant. Su Ming sized up Lu Ming's cheap street clothes, then glanced at the luxury shopping bags. His Adam's apple bobbed. Nothing. Lu Ming's voice turned icy. What do you want? If murder weren't illegal, if he didn't fear being arrested and derailing his plans, right now, he would blind Su Fei first, then drive a dagger into his throat, draining every drop of his blood. Nothing major. Su Fei rubbed his hands together, putting on a troubled expression. I've been a little strapped for cash lately. You know, I just switched jobs, and rent went up. Seeing all these supplies you bought, you must be doing pretty well, right? Here it comes. He wanted to borrow money. It was the exact same excuse as last time. Foolish Lu Ming had lent him 30,000 back then, the money he had set aside for his mortgage. And what happened? When the apocalypse hit, Su Fei used that cash to hoard supplies. Later, he brought men to rob Lu Ming's meager stock of food. How much do you need? Lu Ming looked at him, a mocking smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Su Fei's eyes lit up. It worked. This fool was still so easy to manipulate. Not much, just 30,000. I'll pay you back the second I get my paycheck next month, with interest. Su Fei held up 3 fingers, vowing earnestly. Pay him back? With ghost money? Lu Ming laughed. He set the bags on the ground, freed his hand, and slipped it into his trousers, fingers wrapping around the cool high-power flashlight. Su Fei. Lu Ming called his name. Yeah, I'm here, brother. Get lost. One word. Short and final. The smile froze rigidly on Su Fei's face, like a video paused mid-frame. He wondered if he had misheard. Lu Ming, what did you say? I said get lost. Lu Ming took a step forward. Less than half a meter separated them. He stared straight into Su Fei's eyes. There was no warmth in his gaze, only the indifference of someone watching a corpse, edged with the tang of bloodlust. I have no money. Even if I did, I'd feed it to dogs before lending it to you. Lu Ming did not raise his voice. Yet Su Fei shuddered under that stare. He had never seen Lu Ming like this. The old Lu Ming was honest and timid. He would only grin awkwardly when taken advantage of. But the man standing before him now looked like a starving wolf fresh off a kill. A chill shot from the soles of Su Fei's feet straight to the top of his head. He stumbled backward 2 paces, nearly tripping over the pillar behind him. You've lost your mind. Furious embarrassment turned Su Fei's face beet red. If you won't lend me money, fine, but don't insult me. What terrible manners. You deserve to stay poor your whole life. After shouting, he spun around and hurried away, his gait panicked, as if ghosts chased him. Lu Ming stood watching Su Fei flee. He did not give chase, nor did anger rise in him. He only found it ridiculous. Run, Lu Ming muttered quietly. Eat well, fatten up. Next month, I will come personally to collect the debt. It was a blood debt, to be repaid with his life. Lu Ming picked up his bags and walked to his beat-up Jinbei van. Climbing inside, he pulled out his phone. He found Su Fei in his WeChat contact list, tapped his profile picture, deleted the friend connection, and blocked him. He also blacklisted Su Fei's phone number. Peace at last. Every word from this man was enough to dirty his ears. Still, the pest had soured his mood. How to shake off the irritation? Spend money. Stockpile supplies. Only watching his storage space fill with goods could calm the killing urge burning inside him. Lu Ming started the engine. His next destination, the city's most famous Peking duck restaurant, Quanjude. He did not want those shoddy vacuum-packed versions. He wanted fresh roasted ones, straight out of the oven, redolent of fruit with smoke. The van sped along and pulled up outside the restaurant. It was dinner rush. Voices echoed inside, and the rich aroma of rendered duck fat drifted down the street. Lu Ming took a deep breath. His stomach rumbled. For 3 years in the apocalypse, he had survived on tree bark and rock-hard frozen rat meat. This scent was pure temptation. Boss. Lu Ming walked inside and slapped a bank card on the counter. I want Peking duck. The front desk girl blinked. Sir, how many of you are dining? We have no private rooms left. No dine-in. Take away. Lu Ming glanced at the rows of golden red ducks hanging in the open kitchen. How many ducks do you roast per batch? Around 50. I'll take all of them. Lu Ming said flatly. What? The girl stared in shock, certain she had misheard. All of them. Are you arranging a company team dinner, sir? Cut the chatter. Swipe the card. Lu Ming had no desire to explain. I'll also buy the next batch and the one after that. I want every duck you roast tonight. He requested double portions of lotus leaf pancakes, sweet bean sauce, and shredded green onions. The manager was alerted and rushed out. Once he confirmed the payment went through, his face split into a wide grin. Hurry, turn up the ovens. Get every chef working. After giving out orders, the manager personally poured tea. Lu Ming left it untouched. He sat watching the chefs carve the ducks, their knife skills impeccable, each slice bearing both skin and meat, steaming hot. Box after box was packed, stacks of takeout bags piling up like a hill. Sir, shall we carry these to your vehicle? The manager asked eagerly. No, I'll handle it. Lu Ming hauled dozens of sacks of duck out to the van in several trips. Once the doors closed, and he confirmed no one was nearby, he whispered, Store. With a thought, hundreds of steaming boxes of Peking duck on the back seat vanished into his spatial ring. Time stood still inside the storage space. The ducks would forever remain as crisp and hot as the moment they left the oven. When temperatures plummeted to -70 degrees outside, and others gnawed on ice chunks, he would shelter in his warm, safe house, wrapping tender roast duck in pancakes, biting into juicy meat. Just imagining it thrilled him. Still, duck alone was too greasy. He needed something to go with alcohol. Lu Ming drove west to a century-old braised meat shop, Wang's Marinated Delicacies. Their pork head meat was legendary, rich yet not cloying, lean yet never dry. They also sold beef, trotters, and intestines. Boss, 1,000 gene of pork head meat, 500 gene of marinated beef, and all your pork intestines. Lu Ming swept through the shop like a raider, leaving nothing behind. All the glossy braised meats hanging on hooks entered his storage. He even bought 2 barrels of braising sauce. Cook noodles with this broth, and it would be a feast fit for immortals. That night, Lu Ming crisscrossed most of the city. KFC family buckets, McDonald's Big Macs, Pizza Hut pies, street stall grilled cold noodles, jianbing, stinky tofu. Any hot, edible food, he bought it all. This wild spending slowly soothed the rage simmering inside him. He gazed at the dedicated cooked food zone in his spatial ring. Rows upon rows of steaming delicacies. This was happiness, the most tangible kind of happiness. He kept working until the early hours before returning to his empty house. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, inside a shabby rental unit, Su Fei sat on the curb, twisting open a cheap bottle of beer and taking a harsh gulp. Ugh! He spat onto the pavement, his eyes glinting with malice. His phone screen lit up, showing a chat with Zhang Chong. Zhang Chong was the security captain of Lu Ming's residential complex, a reckless ruffian. Su Fei, Brother Chong, something's up. That kid Lu Ming has lost his mind. Looks like he struck it rich. Zhang Chong, struck rich? That coward? How? Su Fei, it's true. I saw him today. He drives a beat-up Jinbei, but he bought luxury goods, Wagyu beef, Matai, king crab, tens of thousands worth. And the guy feels weird now. Zhang Chong, weird how? Su Fei, there's something off about his stare, like he's killed people. He added that Lu Ming blocked him and wouldn't lend cash, acting all arrogant. Zhang Chong slouched in the security booth, crossed his legs, and sneered at the message. Zhang Chong, ha, struck rich? Perfect timing. I'm short on cash lately. I'll go pay him a visit in a couple days. Su Fei, Brother Chong, take me with you. That kid's far too cocky. We need to teach him a lesson. Zhang Chong, don't worry, you'll get your cut. Su Fei stared at the text, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Keep being arrogant, Lu Ming. Wait until Brother Chong shows up. The next morning, blinding sunlight streamed in. Lu Ming stood in the living room on bare concrete flooring. All furniture had been sold. Those mahogany sofas and leather beds were hauled away by a scrap dealer days earlier for a few thousand yuan. The place now looked like an unfinished rough apartment. The property deed was no longer in Lu Ming's possession either. Manager Wang from Lianjia was probably dreaming about the house right now. When signing the sales contract, Lu Ming had added a special clause, a 2-month rent-back agreement, rent deducted from the house payment. The overweight manager Wang had agreed instantly. In his eyes, Lu Ming was just a spendthrift desperate to cash out and pay off debts. 2 months? He could wait 2 months and 1 day if needed. Once the title transferred, flipping the house would net him over 1 million yuan in profit. Lu Ming took a sip of iced cola and smiled coldly. In 2 months, that fat man would be frozen solid. He wouldn't care about the house anymore. Legally, the house belonged to manager Wang now. But in reality, Lu Ming held the keys. He held the right to occupy the property. This territory was his. And territory needed fortification, heavy fortification. Ding dong, the doorbell rang. Lu Ming set down the cola and walked over to open the door. A middle-aged man in a tailored black suit stood at the threshold, hair perfectly combed. 2 assistants carrying measuring equipment followed behind him. Black Shield Security, the top-tier security firm in the country. They were long tasked with protecting wealthy elites and dignitaries. Word had it that with enough money, they could turn your bedroom into a vault. Mr. Lu, the man glanced at Lu Ming, surprise flickering across his face. Far too young, and dressed so plainly. Hardly someone who could afford exorbitant security fees. That's me. Lu Ming stepped aside. Come in. The man was Li Gang, a senior consultant with Black Shield. He walked inside and eyed the empty bare unit, furrowing his brows, yet professional restraint kept him silent. Mr. Lu, you mentioned over the phone you want full house reinforcement? Li Gang pulled out a tablet. Here are our service packages. Tier A offers anti-theft and anti-prying protection. Tier B is bulletproof and blast-resistant. Tier C is no need to show me. Lu Ming cut him off. He walked to the wall and tapped the thin plasterboard. I want a fully custom build. I don't mean any offense, but your Tier C package, Lu Ming turned to face Li Gang, tone calm, is garbage. Li Gang's expression soured. Mr. Lu, Tier C can withstand regular hand grenades. The threat I'm guarding against isn't grenades. Lu Ming locked eyes with him. It's the apocalypse. Li Gang froze. Is this man insane? Ignoring his stunned reaction, Lu Ming held up one finger. First, reinforce all 6 surfaces of the unit. Every wall, floor, and ceiling must be lined with 20-centimeter thick alloy steel plates. Solid welded panels, 0 gaps. 20 centimeters? Li Gang nearly dropped his tablet in shock. Mr. Lu, do you realize how heavy that is? The floor slabs will collapse. They won't. Lu Ming said evenly. This building uses a frame structure. I've had load-bearing calculations done. It can hold it. Truth be told, he had not run any calculations. If it collapsed, so be it. The whole world would be encased in ice soon anyway. Second, Lu Ming gestured toward the huge floor-to-ceiling window frame. I want bulletproof glass, not cheap stuff that only stops pistols. It needs to withstand continuous fire from a Barrett sniper rifle. Double-layered, vacuum-sealed in between, plus one-way privacy film. Li Gang wiped sweat from his forehead. A lunatic. Definitely a lunatic, or some mafia heir fleeing enemies. Third, ventilation. Lu Ming nodded toward the ceiling. Install an independent air circulation system fitted with top-tier NBC filtration. Even if poison gas fills the outside air, I should be able to smoke indoors without catching a whiff of it. Li Gang listened, dumbfounded. This was not renovating an apartment. This was constructing a bunker, nuclear war grade. Mr. Lu, Li Gang swallowed, his throat dry. The scale of construction and material costs. This will be an astronomical sum. Besides, modifications this extensive will raise issues with property management. I will handle the property office. Lu Ming interrupted. Just give me your quotation. Li Gang took a deep breath and tapped furiously on his tablet to run estimates. 2 minutes later, he lifted his head, studying Lu Ming with complicated eyes. Mr. Lu, rough calculation puts materials and labor at a minimum, 8 million yuan. And the fastest construction timeline is 1 month. 8 million yuan was enough to buy 2 villas in this third-tier city. Spending 8 million renovating a 90-square-meter-old apartment? Madness. 8 million. Lu Ming smiled. I'll give you 10 million. He tossed his worn backpack onto the table. Crash. The zipper split open, revealing stacks of bright red cash, roughly 500,000 yuan he had yet to deposit at the bank. Li Gang's eyes widened. Cold hard cash packed a far stronger visual impact than any bank transfer screenshot. This is the deposit. Lu Ming pulled out one stack and tapped it in his palm. The rest will be settled within a month. Only one condition. Lu Ming raised a single finger. Finish everything in 7 days. The extra 2 million is overtime pay for your crew. Do we have a deal? Silence hung in the air. Li Gang stared at the cash, then back at Lu Ming's pitch-black, intimidating eyes. 7 days meant round-the-clock shifts. But 2 million in overtime pay, money made the world turn. It could move mountains. We'll do it. Li Gang gritted his teeth, excitement flaring in his eyes. You have my word, Mr. Lu. I'll mobilize manpower, bring in our most skilled workers, 3 rotating shifts. If the money's guaranteed, I can wrap it up in 5 days if I have to. Good. Lu Ming pushed the backpack forward. Let's sign the contract. After seeing Li Gang off, silence settled over the house once more. Lu Ming leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. It's done. My biggest worry is finally going to be dealt with. Once this tortoiseshell bunker is finished, not to mention Su Fei and Zhang Chong. Even the military would have to bombard it for ages to break through. As for that 10 million he promised, complete nonsense. Where's he going to get that kind of money? Once the doomsday arrives, he can go beg heaven for it. He glanced down at his phone. The mystery box was available again. He'd been so busy stockpiling supplies these days he'd nearly forgotten all about it. Hope I get something good. Lu Ming tapped the familiar black icon. In an instant, a flash of light burst forth. It wasn't purple. It was blue. A fine-tier item. Congratulations on obtaining full-set Polar Special Operations Suit. Description: crafted from nano-constant temperature material. Lightweight, breathable, and stab-resistant. Built in miniature thermonuclear battery with active heating function. Extreme cold resistance, 80 degrees Celsius. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Clothing. And it generates heat actively. This is priceless. In his past life, he'd wrapped himself in 3 down jackets, yet still froze stiff, barely able to move an inch. If you wore too many layers, you couldn't run when danger struck. But this suit. Lu Ming focused his thoughts, and the black uniform materialized in his hands. The fabric felt strange, cool to the touch, like silk yet reminiscent of metal. It was incredibly light. The full set including boots weighed roughly only 1 kilogram. Let me try it on. Lu Ming pulled off his t-shirt right away and slipped into the operations suit. The garment clung to his body automatically, like a second skin, wrapping tightly around his muscles without feeling constricting in the slightest. The next moment, a warm current surged from the suit and spread across his entire body in an instant. It wasn't an overbearing swelter, but gentle, perfectly balanced warmth. Perfect, absolutely perfect. With this suit, he could roll around in snow without fear from now on. What's more, it was black with a hood, boasting a sleek design. Wearing it, he would look every inch a nocturnal assassin. Lu Ming stepped in front of a mirror. The man reflected stared back with icy eyes. Not bad. Lu Ming nodded in satisfaction. This was the look someone ought to have for the end of the world. In the afternoon, after heading out to stock up on more goods, Lu Ming drove back to his residential complex. He needed to retrieve some belongings and see what those lovely neighbors were up to. As soon as he parked his beat-up Jinbei van at the complex gate, he spotted a crowd gathered noisily outside the gatehouse. Mountains of delivery parcels lay piled on the ground. A woman wearing a pink miniskirt stood there, holding her phone and shouting orders. Hey, be careful. That's my new cosmetics. Don't stack boxes on that one. It's a limited edition handbag. Her voice was shrill, laced with an irritating air of petulance. Lin Xian. Lu Ming frowned. What rotten luck running into her here. He'd planned to drive straight past, but the parcels blocked the only path. Lu Ming honked the horn. Beep. The sharp honk startled Lin Xian. She spun around, her brows furrowed with irritation. Who's that? Have you no manners? Why are you honking? When she saw Lu Ming's battered Jinbei van, she rolled her eyes sky high. TCH, I wondered who it was. Lin Xian folded her arms and strode over in high heels. Lu Ming, are you blind? Can't you see all these goods stacked here? Lu Ming rolled down the window and stared coldly at her. Move aside. Oh, you've got quite the temper after a few days apart. Lin Xian let out an angry laugh. You want me to move? Do you have any idea how much all this costs? Could you afford it if anything gets damaged? She gestured toward the piles of boxes. My double 11 orders just arrived. I'm stuck trying to carry them upstairs alone. Lin Xian's eyes swiveled, and her tone suddenly turned sugary soft. Hey, Brother Lu Ming, could you help me carry these? I'm wearing heels, I honestly can't lift them, and there are several bulky packages. You're so strong. The same old trick, coquetry and simpering. Lu Ming used to fall for it every time. The moment she called him Brother Lu Ming, he'd turn putty in her hands and rush over to work like a mule. But not anymore. Staring at her foundation-caked face, Lu Ming only felt revulsion. The apocalypse was nearly here, yet she was still buying handbags and cosmetics. Had she lost her mind? Of course. She had no idea disaster was coming. She thought life would go on forever, live streaming to charm men and play the goddess. Still, Lu Ming had no intention of warning her. Since he couldn't drive through, he parked the van and walked straight toward her. Watching Lu Ming march over with no intention of stopping to help, Lin Qian froze. She instinctively reached out to grab his sleeve. Brother Lu Ming, did you not hear me? Her voice held a mixture of hurt and disbelief. Where was the Lu Ming who used to drop everything for her? Lu Ming dodged sideways, moving as nimbly as an eel. Lin Qian's hand closed on thin air. Her stiletto twisted under her, and she nearly crashed face first onto the pavement. Ow! She clutched her knee, tears welling up in her eyes from the pain. The scene was witnessed by Aunt Lu, who had just returned with groceries. She was the neighborhood's notorious gossip, always quick to climb onto a moral high horse. At the sight, she slammed her wilted vegetables onto the ground. Well, if it isn't young Lu. Aunt Lu planted herself firmly in the path, her bulk jiggling. What's wrong with you, boy? Can't you see the girl fell? Won't you lend her a hand? And look, Qian has so many deliveries. We're all neighbors. What's the harm in pitching in? Young people these days have no warmth. Cold-blooded, Aunt Lu sprayed spittle everywhere as she ranted, splattering Lu Ming's face. Emboldened by having someone back her up, Lin Qian rubbed her ankle and gazed tearfully at Lu Ming, looking utterly pitiful. Aunt Lu, don't blame Brother Lu Ming. He's probably just in a bad mood. Her manipulative act was masterful. In his past life, Lu Ming would have been overwhelmed with guilt by now, ready to punish himself and obediently carry all the parcels. But now, looking at the pair of drama queens, one old and one young, Lu Ming's stomach churned. Disgusting. Truly revolting. He brushed off the sleeve Lin Qian had almost touched, as if it had come into contact with filth. Aunt Lu. Lu Ming's voice was flat, revealing no emotion. If you've got that much free time, go haul manure from the village entrance instead of spewing garbage here. And you. He turned toward Lin Qian. Are your hands or legs broken? If you can't carry your purchases, don't buy them. No one is obligated to wait on you. A deathly silence fell. Aunt Lu stood gaping, her mouth hanging open for a long moment. Lin Qian was utterly stunned. Was this really Lu Ming? He was acting like a rabid dog. You, who are you insulting? Aunt Lu recovered, trembling with rage. Ill-bred brat. Your parents passed young, so no one taught you any decency. At those words, Lu Ming's gaze turned icy. For a split second, it felt as if the temperature around them plummeted. He took a step forward, slipping one hand into his pocket to wrap his fingers around the tactical dagger he'd obtained a few days earlier. The killing aura of a man who had seen blood washed over them. Stared down by that look, Aunt Lu swallowed the insults on her tongue. A chill crept up her neck, as if a blade was pressed against her throat. Get out of my way. Lu Ming uttered a single word. A decent dog knows not to block the road. With that, he spared the two buffoons not another glance. He walked around the stacks of luxury bags and strode into the apartment building. Behind him, Lin Qian shrieked in fury, and Aunt Lu continued cursing. Lu Ming, just you wait. If I ever speak to you again, I'll take your surname. TCH. What a creep. Deserving to stay single forever. Lu Ming stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the 18th floor. The door slid shut, shutting out all the commotion outside. He let out a cold chuckle. Take my surname? You're not worthy. Wait until next month. When you're on your knees starving, begging me for a moldy piece of bread, I wonder if you'll still be this arrogant. Back inside his empty apartment, he walked to the window and watched Lin Qian still complaining to Aunt Lu downstairs. The figure in the pink skirt looked oddly frail in the sunset. In little more than 20 days, those legs she was so proud of would be covered in oozing frostbite. Her soft skin would become fodder for rampaging thugs. Lu Ming pulled the curtains closed, blocking out the last of the sunlight. Enough thinking. Dwelling on it might soften his heart, even though his heart was harder than a butcher's blade these days. After drinking some water, Lu Ming decided to acquire more fuel. Even with the special operations suit protecting him, vehicles would be essential in the apocalypse. Scavenging supplies, fleeing danger, or running down rioters would be impossible without fuel. Besides, any heavy machinery he might obtain later would be nothing but scrap metal. Lu Ming pulled out his phone and opened the shopping app. He placed an order for batches of monocrystalline silicon solar panels. Rated at 500 watts each, they were the highest conversion efficiency model available. He bought 50 panels. He also ordered matching controllers, inverters, and storage batteries. Lithium iron phosphate batteries, 20 sets. They were rugged and long-lasting. Though after doomsday, the sun would seem dead, perpetually shrouded under cloud cover. Solar panels would still work with even a sliver of light. Every little bit helped. One more energy source meant one greater chance of survival. After paying, his account balance shrank once again. It didn't matter, though. The supplies he planned to collect next would cost almost nothing. Small investment, massive gains. Lu Ming changed into dark athletic wear, pulled on a baseball cap and face mask, and slung his old backpack over his shoulders. The bag was empty. His true storage space resided in the ring on his finger. He headed downstairs and climbed into the van. Vroom. The engine let out a wheeze like an aging ox and belched black exhaust. The van was worn, yet spacious and durable. Most importantly, it didn't attract attention. Stealing fuel in a Range Rover would be idiotic. Lu Ming drove out of the city, heading for private gas stations. Such stations had lax management, countless blind spots for surveillance cameras, and while their fuel quality left much to be desired, it was enough to keep machinery running. Night had fully fallen, streetlights casting dim yellow glow. A gas station bearing the sign, Zhongyo Petroleum, appeared by the roadside. There were barely any customers, only one attendant dozing on duty. Lu Ming pulled the van over to the furthest fuel pump, hidden from view by a large parked truck. "Fill it up," Lu Ming called out. The attendant trudged over with sleepy eyes, inserted the fuel nozzle, then returned indoors. Self-service refueling was commonplace these days, and small private stations rarely bothered supervising customers closely. Lu Ming watched the numbers on the pump tick upward. He glanced left and right. Nobody was around, and the surveillance camera pointed directly at the rear of the large truck. Taking a deep breath, Lu Ming summoned large, empty iron drums from his ring, 200-liter containers he'd picked up previously from a scrapyard. He pulled out the fuel nozzle and stuck it straight into the drum. Glug, glug, glug. Pale yellow diesel filled the container, releasing a pungent odor. To Lu Ming's nose, it smelled wonderful. This wasn't merely fuel, it was liquid gold. One drum full. Store. The heavy drum vanished instantly into the ring's storage space. Second drum, third drum. Lu Ming grew steadily more skilled, moving like a seasoned fuel thief. The figures on the pump climbed rapidly. 500 yuan, 1,000 yuan, 2,000 yuan. He stopped after pumping roughly 1 ton of diesel. He reinserted the nozzle into the van's tank and added another 100 yuan's worth to fill it completely. He walked inside to settle the bill. The attendant's eyes nearly popped out upon seeing the total. "Whoa, buddy. Your Jinbei sure drinks fuel like there's no tomorrow. Over 2,000 yuan worth." "I modified it." Lu Ming tugged his cap lower and made up an excuse. "Upgraded to a larger fuel tank for long-distance travel." The attendant asked no further questions, satisfied as long as he received payment. Lu Ming handed over the cash and drove away. He moved on to the next station. That whole night, Lu Ming wandered the city outskirts like an indefatigable hamster. Remote gas stations saw the van roll through. By the wee hours of the morning, dozens of barrels were stacked in one corner of his ring's storage. Tens of tons of diesel, plus several tons of gasoline. Enough. More than enough to last a lifetime. Lu Ming parked the van by the roadside and chugged an energy drink. Fantastic. At that moment, several sports cars roared past at breakneck speed. The gust of wind they generated nearly tipped his van over. Vroom. Ferraris and a Lamborghini. The vehicles pulled up outside a convenience store ahead. Several rich kids climbed out, shouting excitedly. "Hey, has anyone seen the news?" One blonde-haired youth waved his phone around enthusiastically. "They say a massive meteor shower is coming these days, plus auroras." "Really? We're inland. Can we even see auroras here?" "If experts say so, it must be true. Something about abnormal solar activity." "Awesome. We have to head up the mountain to watch. Bring girls, pop open champagne. It'll be epic." The group continued laughing and debating where to go sightseeing. Lu Ming sat in his van watching these oblivious youngsters. Auroras? Huh. That glow would mark the gates of hell opening. Solar flares would erupt, throwing Earth's magnetic field into chaos. What followed would not be romance, but an eternal ice age. Go ahead and watch. Lu Ming started the van and slowly drove into the darkness. Enjoy the view while your eyes haven't frozen solid. This is the last glow of human civilization, after all. Dawn broke early the next morning, and Lu Ming woke. It could hardly be called waking, for he had barely slept. Having just been reborn, his nerves were stretched taut, impossible to relax. He splashed cold water over his face. He had important business today, acquiring medicine. In the apocalypse, pharmaceuticals were more valuable than gold. A cold could kill you. A fever could kill you. Diarrhea could kill you. A tiny infected wound might end with amputation. In his past life, he'd watched a strong man die from a cut. With no medicine available, his entire arm rotted away, and he died screaming in agony. Even now, the memory of those screams sent a chill down Lu Ming's spine. He got dressed, slung his decoy backpack over his shoulder, and headed out. He left the Jinbei van behind. It drew too much attention and was hard to park. Instead, he unlocked an electric scooter. Smalley's scooters were nimble, perfect for weaving through alleyways. Better yet, he disabled automatic payment. He intended to ride for free. His first stop was an unassuming neighborhood pharmacy. Lu Ming dared not buy in bulk. Shopkeeper, 2 boxes of ibuprofen and a pack of amoxicillin. Pharmacies operated under network surveillance these days. Buying antibiotics required ID registration, and large orders would arouse suspicion. Got a cold? The bald shop owner scanned the barcodes and asked casually. Yeah, lots of people at home, stocking up. Lu Ming fabricated an excuse, paid, collected the medicine, and left. He turned left upon exiting, heading to another pharmacy 2 streets away. 2 boxes of Fenbid, 2 boxes of norfloxacin, iodine and gauze too. Lu Ming moved tirelessly like an ant, traveling across every district of the city. East, west, south, north. He visited every pharmacy marked with the green cross emblem. By afternoon, he'd stopped at over 50 pharmacies. His backpack was stuffed full. He slipped into an empty public restroom and whispered, "Store." The backpack emptied. Inside the ring, a designated medical storage area rose into a mound. Hundreds of boxes of cold medicine, antibiotics, painkillers, vitamins too. They would be the sole source of micronutrients after doomsday. Without vegetables, deficiency would lead to tooth loss and internal bleeding. Staring at the stacks of medicine boxes, Lu Ming felt a sense of relief. Still, it was not enough. These were only over-the-counter and prescription medications easily purchased. Powerful drugs were unavailable at pharmacies. Strong broad-spectrum antibiotics or surgical anesthetics, for instance. Lu Ming found an internet cafe, logged on, put on headphones, and typed a jumble of characters forming a website address. The dark web. He'd learned how to access it from a hacker in his past life while hunting for supply sources. The interface was crude, black background with white text, resembling a bulletin board from 20 years ago. Yet the goods sold there were terrifying: firearms, controlled substances, counterfeit identity documents. Lu Ming ignored all that. He searched directly for first aid kits and antibiotics. Soon a seller messaged him. Full Russian military first aid kit. Contains morphine injections, hemostatic powder, surgical sutures. Price, 5,000 USDT. Expensive, ridiculously expensive. Roughly more than 30,000 RMB per kit. But Lu Ming did not hesitate for a second. I'll take 10 sets. I also need cephalosporin injections. Send me everything you have in stock. The seller was clearly surprised by such a decisive buyer and sent an OK emoji. Transfer the deposit. Meet at the usual location at midnight tonight to collect the goods. Lu Ming completed the money transfer. Though it pained him to part with the cash, the thought that these supplies could save lives made it worthwhile. By the time he got hold of the medicine, night had fully fallen. His stomach rumbled loudly in protest. Lu Ming rubbed his belly. Over these past few days, he had been so busy stockpiling goods that he had mostly survived on street food and takeout. Tasty as it was, it still felt lacking somehow. Time for a proper feast. Lu Ming's gaze drifted toward the magnificent luxury hotel along the road. The Cloudtop Restaurant, the city's only 3 Michelin-starred venue. Once, Lu Ming would not even dare lift his head to glance this way when passing by. Word had it that a single glass of water here cost 88 yuan. That was no ordinary drinking water. It was practically drinking blood. But things were different now. Let's go. Lu Ming tossed his shared bicycle onto the roadside, straightened his clothes, and strode inside. The hostess standing at the entrance wore a cheongsam and was quite pretty, yet her eyes were sharp. She spotted Lu Ming's cheap streetwear and mud-stained sneakers at once. "Sir, do you have a reservation?" Her tone was polite, yet she subtly blocked his path. "No," Lu Ming replied without looking at her, moving straight forward. "I'll make one now." "I'm sorry, sir, but we..." Slap. A black card slammed down on the host's stand. It was not a bank card of special status. Well, it was just an ordinary debit card, except Lu Ming had withdrawn 20,000 yuan in cash from the ATM earlier and tucked the banknotes beneath it. Bright red bills peeked out from the edge. The hostess's expression shifted in an instant, disdain melting away into soft, honeyed warmth. "Sir, a private room has just become available due to a cancellation. Right this way." Lu Ming let out a cold laugh. Truly, money makes the world go round. The old saying held perfectly true. Stepping into the private room, he saw the decor was undeniably lavish. Crystal chandeliers dazzled the eyes, and floor-to-ceiling windows framed the entire city's night view. Streams of traffic and countless glowing lights filled the scene. No one could imagine this bustling metropolis would soon turn into a dead city. "Sir, here is the menu." A waiter handed over a thick tome with a leather cover embossed with gold lettering. Lu Ming flipped open the first page. Australian M9 tomahawk steak for 1,888 yuan, black truffle foie gras at 988 yuan, caviar priced at 2,888 yuan. TSK, straight-up robbery. But this money would turn worthless once the end came anyway. This one, and that one. Lu Ming ran his finger across the menu. "Order everything on this page." The waiter froze. "Sir, how many guests are there?" "Just me." "But you've ordered far too much. You won't be able to finish it," the waiter cautioned kindly. "I want it." Lu Ming snapped the menu shut. "Also bring red wine." "Open that bottle. What's it called?" "Romani Conti." "Sir, that bottle costs 160,000 yuan." The waiter's voice trembled. "Open it." Lu Ming spoke only one word. Half an hour later, the table was piled high with plates. Sizzling steak released an alluring charred aroma. The foie gras melted on the tongue, rich enough to bring tears to one's eyes. Then there was the caviar. A single spoonful sent bursts of salty, fresh flavor across the palate. Lu Ming did not chew slowly and elegantly like refined gentlemen. He grabbed the food with his bare hands, devouring meat and gulping wine in huge mouthfuls. His table manners were dreadful, as if he were a starved ghost reborn. And in truth, that was exactly what he had been. In his past life, he had his ribs broken fighting over half a moldy steamed bun. He had lain in garbage heaps for 3 days scrambling for a mouthful of sour congee. That agony of hunger, stomach burning with acid, craving to gnaw on his own hands. Lu Ming sank his teeth hard into the steak. Juices splattered everywhere. It tasted divine. This was what it felt like to be alive. After a long while, Lu Ming's mouth glistened with grease. He casually tossed a half-eaten premium steak onto a plate. He was stuffed, his belly rounded. More than half the food on the table remained untouched. Waste. He did not care. "Waiter, check please," Lu Ming called out. "Right away, sir." The waiter walked in holding a card terminal. He stared at the leftover spread on the table with a complicated look. Just how starved had this man been? "The total comes to 235,800 yuan. As the waiter stated the amount, Lu Ming pulled out his credit card. Beep. Insufficient balance. A shrill alert blared from the machine. Silence crashed over the room. The waiter's face darkened. His earlier deference vanished, replaced by wariness and even contempt. "Sir, your card." "Oh, it's maxed out." Lu Ming felt no embarrassment at all. He almost wanted to laugh. This lousy card hit its limit at merely over 200,000? Banks were so stingy. Try this one instead. He took out another credit card with a 50,000 yuan limit. It was nowhere near enough. "Sir, this one doesn't cover the bill either." The waiter's tone turned icy. "You aren't planning on dining and dashing, are you?" 2 security guards peeked in from the doorway. Lu Ming paid them no mind. Slowly, he pulled a set of car keys from his pocket, the key to his beat-up Jinbei van. It was worthless, of course, but he had more stashed inside his backpack. Rustle. He unzipped the backpack and tipped out stacks of cash onto the table, roughly 100,000 yuan. "Charge 50,000 to the card, and I'll settle the rest in cash," Lu Ming said calmly. "If it still isn't enough, I've got more." He reached into his pocket pretending to search, but in reality retrieved more cash from his spatial storage, adding several more bundles. Now the sum covered the bill. The waiter's eyes bulged at the mountain of red banknotes. Who carried this much physical cash these days? A vulgar rich man? Or perhaps a fugitive? It made no difference to him, as long as the money was there. "Of course, sir. I'll sort this out immediately." The waiter's smile returned, his hands shaking as he counted the cash. "Keep the change as your tip." Lu Ming stood and let out a loud belch. While the waiter headed for the front desk, he flicked his wrist. "Store." All the unfinished steaks, red wine, even plates, knives and forks vanished in an instant. The table was spotless, not a crumb left behind. When the waiter returned with the receipt, he stared at the empty table, utterly dumbfounded. Where did everything go?" "I packed it to go." Lu Ming patted his backpack. "What? Afraid I'd steal your tableware?" "No, not at all." The waiter scratched his head, thoroughly confused. There had clearly been an entire feast here a moment ago. How could it disappear in the blink of an eye? Was this man a magician? Ignoring him, Lu Ming strode outside. A chill lingered in the wind, yet his whole body burned warm from the beef and wine flowing through him. He glanced back at the restaurant, its lights blazing. Inside, guests clinked glasses, chatting and laughing. They discussed stock markets, housing prices, travel plans for their next holiday. No one knew the train bound for hell had already blown its whistle. And he, Lu Ming, held the only ticket aboard. On the outskirts of the city stood an abandoned chemical plant. This was the agreed meeting spot with the dark web seller. No streetlights lined the area. Only unknown insects chirped in the grass, an irritating racket. Lu Ming rode his shared bicycle and stopped before a rusted giant iron gate. He did not go inside. Instead, he stood hidden in shadow, gripping a titanium alloy entrenching tool. Honk, honk. Two horn blares echoed in the distance. An unlicensed black Santana rolled into view and halted 10 meters away from him. A narrow crack opened in the car window. Heaven King covers the Earth Tiger? A hoarse voice came from inside. Lu Ming twitched his lip. Seriously, who still used such corny code phrases in this day and age? The pagoda subdues the river demon. He replied with a matching line. The window rolled all the way down. A hand tossed out a black canvas bag. Count the goods. Lu Ming picked up the bag and unzipped it. By moonlight, he saw neatly arranged first aid kits inside. Morphine injections, hemostatic powder, surgical sutures, and several boxes of potent antibiotics capable of pulling someone back from the brink of death. All genuine. That distinct medicinal scent belonged exclusively to military supplies. Thanks. Lu Ming stuffed the bag into his worn backpack, hopped back onto his bicycle, and faded into the night. Now that he had secured the medicine, the last weight lifted from his heart. It was time to claim the real big haul. Shunfeng Logistics Park. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. The place lay silent as a graveyard. The scrawny intermediary who was meant to guard the gate had long since wandered off. Perfect. Lu Ming abandoned the shared bicycle by the roadside and climbed over the low perimeter wall. The warehouse gate was tightly shut. Through the crack drifted a rich aroma of rice, the scent of grain. Lu Ming unlocked the heavy padlock and pushed open the iron door. Creak. The noise carried far across the quiet night. He switched on his powerful flashlight. As the beam swept across the space, Lu Ming could not help but be stunned, even though he had prepared himself. The 2,000 square meter warehouse was packed to the rafters, stockpiles rising like mountains. On the left stood neatly stacked sacks of Wuchang rice, each weighing 25 kilos, piled all the way to the ceiling. To the right were cartons of arowana blended cooking oil. Red plastic barrels glinted under the torchlight. The middle section held vacuum-packed cured pork, sausages, and countless cans. The supplies in this single warehouse could feed 1,000 people for an entire year. But from this moment on, everything belonged to Lu. Lu Ming walked up to the mountain of rice sacks and pressed his palm against the bottom layer. Store. With a thought, no sound was made, just like magic. Whoosh. The towering mound of rice vanished out of thin air, leaving only a thin layer of dust on the concrete floor. Lu Ming did not pause. He moved swiftly through the warehouse like a ghost. Store. The oil disappeared. Store. The cans disappeared. Store. The cured meats disappeared. In barely 10 minutes, the once crammed warehouse, with barely space to stand, was completely empty. Even several mice that had been sneaking rice in the corner froze. Half grains still dangled from their jaws as they stared at the suddenly vacant space, questioning everything they knew. Lu Ming turned his attention to the ring storage space. Within his consciousness, the gray void was now 1/3 full. All supplies hovered silently inside. This was his foundation, his guarantee to live with dignity once the apocalypse arrived. Still, he could not leave yet. If anyone discovered thousands of tons of goods vanishing without trace, it would spark rumors of supernatural happenings. The end was near, and few would bother investigating such a bizarre case. But Lu Ming wanted to avoid trouble. He pulled dozens of empty cardboard boxes out of his storage and scattered them. Then he drove his beat-up Jinbei van to the warehouse entrance, repeatedly reversing and slamming on the brakes. Screech, screech. Tires scraped against concrete, leaving chaotic black skid marks. He forged the scene to look as though a frantic convoy had carted everything away overnight. Once finished, Lu Ming brushed dust off his hands. Flawless. If anyone came to investigate, they would only assume creditors or gangsters had cleared out the warehouse overnight. No one would guess thousands of tons of goods resided inside a tiny ring. After leaving the logistics park, Lu Ming headed straight for the city's most high-end esports hotel in his Jinbei van instead of returning home. Give me a room. I want the fastest internet available. The reception girl eyed the dusty man with a tattered backpack strangely. But when Lu Ming slapped several red banknotes on the counter, her face broke into a wide smile at once. Right away, sir. Our premium suite comes with 10 gigabit fiber. Download speeds are lightning fast. Lu Ming entered the room, locked the door, and booted up his top-spec Alienware desktop. The connection truly lived up to its promise. Speed tests showed a download rate of 1,000 megabytes per second. From his backpack, Lu Ming pulled out the black box he had bought earlier at the computer market, a Synology NAS server loaded with 16 terabyte enterprise hard drives. 20 drives in total, amounting to 320 terabytes of storage. This would be his ark of spiritual nourishment. In the apocalypse, there would be no internet, no entertainment, only cold and bloodshed. Without these files, a person would lose their mind. Let's begin. Lu Ming's fingers flew across the keyboard, opening Xuanlei, Bitcomet, and Baidu NetDisk all at once. Movies? Download every film on the IMDb Top 250, the complete Marvel collection, all Stephen Chow's works, and well, those adult films too. Games. He opened Steam. Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077, Red Dead Redemption 2. Every major single-player title was queued for download. Hundreds of gigabytes of AAA games he had never been willing to buy normally. He downloaded cracked versions without hesitation. Beyond entertainment lay vital preparations. Lu Ming opened a folder labeled Survival Guides. Handbook for talents skilled in both civil and military work. Barefoot Doctor's Manual. Encyclopedia of Wilderness Survival. Alongside tutorials on machinery maintenance, crop cultivation, and even how to make explosives from basic materials. These files would gather dust under normal circumstances, yet in the end times, they represented knowledge that could be passed on. The computer fans whirred loudly, roaring like a helicopter taking off. Hard drive activity lights flickered nonstop, glowing a solid red. Lu Ming leaned back in an ergonomic chair, holding an icy cola, watching the green download progress bar scroll across the screen. A profound calm settled over him. Outside the window, the sky was gradually turning pale. The early morning of November 10th. The wind had grown stronger. It was not the mild chill of autumn, but a bitter, piercing gale. Pedestrians on the road wrapped their overcoats tightly around themselves, hunching their shoulders and complaining about the weather. Why has it turned so cold all of a sudden? The weather forecast never mentioned a temperature drop. Lu Ming stood by the floor-to-ceiling window watching the tiny figures below. A temperature drop? This was nothing. In a few days, they would learn how gentle this current cold truly was. Just then, his phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Lu Ming answered. Hello? Boss Lu. A loud, gruff voice with a thick regional accent came through the line. This is Wang, the renovation contractor. The steel plates and bulletproof glass you ordered have arrived. The factory shipped them out overnight. So, when should we start construction? Excitement colored old Wang's tone. Lu Ming's payment had been extremely generous. He had turned down all other jobs for this contract and assembled more than a dozen of his best workers. Lu Ming glanced at the time, 8 in the morning. 20 days remained until the full outbreak of the apocalypse. Start immediately. Bring your crew and get to work right now. I want you to turn my apartment into an impenetrable iron fortress within a week. Not even a fly can slip inside. Old Wang pounded his chest confidently over the phone. You've got it. Leave it to me. As long as the money is good, I could build you an imperial palace. 9 o'clock in the morning. Lu Ming returned to the 18th floor of Xingfu residential compound. He pushed open the front door. The apartment was empty, nothing but gray bare cement walls and dust covering the floors. Only a few days earlier, this had been a warm little home. Now it looked like an unfinished construction site. Lu Ming closed the door casually and tossed his prop backpack into the corner. He walked to the center of the living room and pulled an outdoor folding chair out of his storage, settling down comfortably. Hiss! The can of unlimited supply iced cola popped open. The fizzing bubbles echoed clearly in the vacant room. He did not find the space shabby. On the contrary, he appreciated its simplicity. Fancy decorations would only be a burden in the apocalypse, breeding grounds for bacteria, fuel for fires. Only cement and the steel plates soon to be installed formed the foundation for survival. Inventory check. Lu Ming closed his eyes, sending his consciousness into the sub-dimensional ring on his index finger. It felt like a god overlooking his own territory. The sight never failed to astound him, no matter how many times he witnessed it, sending tingles down his spine. The 100 cubic meter storage space was filled to capacity. The left side was the grain zone. 50 tons of Wuchang rice rose like a white wall, releasing a rich rice aroma. Beside it sat another 50 tons of Wadeli flour. One whole side of the invisible boundary was lined with cured pork and sausages, streaked red and white, glistening with fat. The center was the liquid zone. 2,000 barrels of arowana cooking oil, 5,000 cartons of Nongfu spring bottled water, plus dozens of large metal drums filled with petrol and diesel collected from petrol stations all over the city. Energy. The fuel that would let him roar across frozen wastelands in an off-road vehicle in the future. The right side served as the supplies zone. A dozen first aid kits rested there quietly. Morphine, hemostatic powder, antibiotics. Every box held the power to save a life. Also inside stood the Synology NAS server he had filled with files the previous day, its black casing gleaming coldly. 320 terabytes of entertainment, enough to last him a lifetime. Wealth. Unimaginable wealth. Lu Ming opened his eyes, a grin spreading uncontrollably across his face. In his past life, he had been trampled into mud and humiliated fighting over half a moldy biscuit. In this life, he sat atop a mountain of supplies. This sense of security surpassed any luxury car or mansion money could buy. Ring ring, ring ring. The phone on the floor vibrated violently, breaking the silence of the room. Lu Ming frowned and picked it up. The screen was flooded with missed calls marked in red. Paypay Collection Agent, Alipay Borrow Service Customer Service, XX Bank Credit Card Center. One unfamiliar landline number was also listed, most likely from an outsourced debt collection firm. Over these past days, he had taken out several million yuan in online loans and maxed out every credit card he owned. Had the reckoning finally arrived? He let out a scoff. Lu Ming answered the landline and switched on speakerphone. Hey, is this Lu Ming? A menacing voice crackled over the phone, punctuated by the clatter of keyboard tapping in the background. You're 20 days overdue on the 200,000 you owe our firm. If you don't pay up now, we'll leak your contact list. We'll hang banners outside your workplace and ruin your reputation. An average person would have been terrified hearing this, but Lu Ming merely took a sip of cola and burped. Burp. What? What's your attitude? The caller was clearly enraged. I'm talking to you about serious business. Do you want to end up in jail? Buddy, Lu Ming spoke calmly. Save your phone credit. You. Stock up on more rice and thick warm clothes. Lu Ming's tone remained placid, as if discussing something utterly trivial. Don't freeze to death later. If you come back as a ghost to chase me for debt, you'll still have to wait in line. He hung up. The debt collector on the other end was presumably seething and frantically redialing. Lu Ming watched the screen light up repeatedly, a mocking glint in his eyes. Leak contacts? Ruin his reputation? Jail? These burdens that could crush ordinary people in peaceful times meant nothing before the end of the world. In 20 more days, laws would turn to worthless paper. The only rules would be the guns in your hands and the food in your stomach. Lu Ming pried open the back cover of his phone and pulled out the SIM card. Crack. He squeezed hard between two fingers, and the tiny chip snapped clean in two. He tossed the broken card aside. It arced through the air and landed in a pile of rubbish in the corner. He then pulled a spare phone out of his spatial storage, one he had prepared long beforehand with an untraceable burner SIM. This dedicated line was only for contacting construction crews and receiving supplies. Peace returned. From this moment onward, Lu Ming severed all social ties to his old life. He was no longer the wage slave weighed down by mortgage and car loans. He was the lord of the apocalyptic stronghold. Lu Ming stood and walked out onto the balcony. The view from the 18th floor was spectacular, overlooking the entire residential complex and even half the city. Down below, the sun still shone bright. The temperature had dropped, yet it remained tolerable for humans. The complex garden bustled with activity. By the security booth, Zhang Chong, the burly head of security, was yelling furiously at a food delivery rider. Are you blind? Who said you could waltz into this complex? Register. Hand over your ID. Zhang Chong wore an ill-fitting uniform, waving a rubber baton and spraying spittle everywhere. The delivery rider kept his head down, apologizing non-stop, sweating profusely out of anxiety. Lu Ming watched coldly. Men like Zhang Chong were bullies who picked on the weak and feared the strong in peacetime. Given a scrap of authority, they acted as if they held absolute power. When the apocalypse arrived, his inner malice would be fully unleashed. He would become a petty tyrant within the complex, looting supplies and preying on women, committing every evil imaginable. Enjoy your shouting while you still can, Lu Ming murmured, swirling his cola can. His gaze shifted. On the lawn, a figure in a white down jacket was walking a dog. It was Lin Xian. She held the leash of her teddy named Daodu, pouting, making heart gestures, tilting her head upward at a 45-degree angle. Hey everyone, it's so chilly today, remember to wrap up warm. Even from this distance, Lu Ming could almost hear her cloying, sugary baby voice. The teddy defecated on the lawn, yet Lin Xian did not spare it a glance. She simply tugged the dog away. A cleaning aunt silently stepped forward afterward to sweep up the mess. A quintessential self-serving opportunist. In his past life, she had used her looks to trick supplies from countless men in the early days of the apocalypse, including Lu Ming. Brother Lu Ming, I'm so cold. I want something hot to eat. The memory of that voice still turned his stomach. I've got no warm food for you. Lu Ming's eyes turned icy. But there's plenty of hot garbage. Further in the distance, a group of elderly women danced square dancing on the plaza. The loudspeaker blared at full volume, tormenting residents on lower floors who dared not complain openly. The boundless horizon holds my love. Aunt Lu swayed her stout hips, her face flushed. She was the complex's unofficial gossip hub and a master of moral coercion. She knew every household's business, exactly how many people lived in each flat and what they had bought. When disaster struck, she had led the mob that broke down Lu Ming's door. We're all neighbors. How can you hoard everything for yourself without a twinge of guilt? Xiao Lu, what's wrong with sharing a bite with your old aunt? Lu Ming tapped his fingers lightly against the cold railing. All these lively, greedy, hypocritical people would become walking corpses under the shadow of the apocalypse. Some would freeze solid into ice sculptures, some would turn savage beasts, and others would end up as food. Pathetic. November 11th, Singles Day. In previous years, Lu Ming would have curled up under his duvet scrolling through shopping platforms, hunting for discounted toilet paper and laundry detergent, racking his brains over tiny rebates. But not today. Boom. A deafening crash shook the entire building, followed by heavy-duty jackhammers striking concrete. A shrill, piercing noise that felt as though the drill was boring straight into one's skull. Lu Ming sat alone on a folding chair in the center of the living room, wearing newly purchased Sony noise-canceling headphones and holding an ice-cold cola. Sizz. He twisted open the cap. White vapor rising up. He tilted his head back and took a gulp. The icy liquid slid down his throat, sending a sharp shiver through him. Perfect. Heavy metal rock blared in his headphones, blocking out most of the racket outside. In front of him, Old Wong worked shirtless, swinging a 12-pound sledgehammer, every muscle in his body tensed. Heave, 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 Old Wong chanted as he struck. With every blow, the non-load-bearing wall separating the living room and balcony crumbled a little more. Brick fragments flew, and dust billowed like thick fog. Cough, boss. How's that power? Old Wong wiped dust off his face, revealing a row of white teeth as sweat streamed down his dark spine. Don't worry. I'll knock all these non-load-bearing walls down this morning. They won't stay standing till the new year. Lu Ming nodded and gestured toward a crate of Red Bull beside him. Help yourselves, lads. Much appreciated, boss. Over a dozen workers surged with renewed energy, demolishing furiously inside the 90-square-meter apartment. Tear everything down. Everything. Aside from the load-bearing pillars and exterior walls, Lu Ming intended to transform the flat into one open, seamless space. Those pointless two-bedroom partitions would only block sightlines once the apocalypse came. He needed an unobstructed view of every corner of the home. Just then, the phone resting on his knee flashed wildly. The residential group chat had erupted. 1802, Grandpa Zhang. What on earth is happening? Is it an earthquake? 1204, Sisterly. Which household is renovating at this hour? Have they no consideration? My child is attending online classes. 701, Wang Chong. Damn it. Can they keep the noise down? I just got home after night shift. Lu Ming skimmed the messages and curled his lips into a cold smirk. Early morning? It was 10 o'clock in the morning, within legal renovation hours. What law was he breaking? Moments later, a 60-second voice message popped up, sent from an account with a gaudy peony flower avatar. Aunt Lu. Lu Ming did not play the audio. He could guess exactly. He converted the voice to text rather than subjecting his ears to her yelling. Aunt Lu at 1801. Lu Ming, have you lost your mind? Is this how you demolish a flat? You'll shake the whole building down. You're putting everyone at risk. Selfish. So selfish. I'm warning you, stop work right now. Another message followed immediately. Aunt Lu, everyone don't stand for this. This boy needs to be taught a lesson. He looks quiet normally, but his true colors are showing. Come with me upstairs, block his doorway, stop this renovation. Dozens of replies poured in at once. 1603, right. Let's go confront him. 1702. I'm coming too. The noise is unbearable. Lu Ming stared at the screen without the slightest ripple of emotion. Block my door? Come ahead. In his past life, these very same people had hurled identical insults in this chat 3 days after the extreme cold descended. Then they broke through. They broke through his front door and stole his last sack of rice. Back then, Aunt Lu had pressed her shoe against his face and said, Xiao Lu, you live alone anyway. You can't eat all that. Let your old aunt take some off your hands. He could still feel the dull ache on his cheeks. Bang, bang, bang. Heavy blows slammed against the security door, not knocks, violent strikes. Even through the noise-canceling headphones, The shouting outside was audible. Lu Ming, open this door. Get out here. Old Wang froze mid-swing with the sledgehammer, glancing awkwardly at Lu Ming. Boss, what do we do? All the workmen halted and exchanged uneasy looks. Renovation crews dreaded neighborhood conflicts. If things escalated and police arrived, work would stop and they would lose pay. Lu Ming stood and brushed dust off his trousers. Keep smashing, don't stop. He walked to the door and peered through the peephole. A crowd packed the corridor. Aunt Lu stood at the front, her fleshy cheeks quivering with rage. Beside her stood the property manager in uniform. The manager was a blatant opportunist. He practically groveled to wealthy homeowners driving luxury cars, yet culinary tasks aside, barely spared Lu Ming a glance. Lu Ming, we know you're inside, the manager shouted. This is property management. Open up immediately. Multiple residents have filed complaints over illegal renovation and potential structural damage. Lu Ming gripped the doorknob and pulled the door wide open in one sharp motion. Clang. The crowd outside stumbled forward, caught off guard by the sudden opening. Aunt Lu staggered, pointed her finger straight at Lu Ming and began screaming. You ungrateful little. Shut up. Lu Ming shot her a cold glance, his expression blank, without anger, as if he were gazing at livestock waiting for slaughter. Aunt Lu choked. The words stuck fast in her throat. Ignoring her, Lu Ming turned straight to the property manager. Illegal? Which regulation have I broken? The manager wore a stern expression, hands behind his back, feigning impartiality. We have received numerous noise complaints. The vibrations are extreme, and we suspect structural tampering. Work must cease for inspection, and you will face fines. Exactly. Fine him heavily. Aunt Lu egged him on. Make him rebuild the walls. Cut his power. Shut off his water supply, someone shouted from the back of the crowd. The manager eyed Lu Ming with quiet triumph. Mr. Lu, for the safety of all residents, we are forced to disconnect your electricity until you rectify the issues. Slap. A stack of red banknotes landed hard against the manager's chest. He caught them instinctively. The bundle felt thick and heavy. He glanced down, and his eyes nearly bulged. Cash. Brand new 100 yuan notes. 2 full bundles. 20,000 yuan in total. This covers prepaid electricity fees, next year's property management fees, and a little extra for you to buy tea with. The manager's hands trembled. 20,000 yuan. His monthly salary was only 4,000 yuan. This amounted to half a year's pay. Untraceable cash off the books. His previously dark, scowling face instantly bloomed into a wrinkly grin. Oh my, Mr. Lu, there's no need for this. You're far too generous. He stuffed the money into his pockets in one fluid, hurried movement. Terrified Lu Ming might change his mind. Well, a little noise during renovation is perfectly normal. The manager cleared his throat, spun around, and fixed a stern glare on Aunt Lu and the mob. We should all be understanding. Mr. Lu is working within permitted renovation hours. I've already checked. No load-bearing walls have been touched. Everything complies with regulations. Regulations my foot. Aunt Lu flew into a rage, spraying spittle everywhere. Are you blind? The whole building is shaking. Lu Guifan. The manager raised his voice sharply. Watch your tone. Are you an expert? I say everything is fine, so it is. What are you all loitering around here for? Don't you have work or cooking to do? Disperse now. Anyone continuing to stir up trouble will be reported for disrupting public order, and I will call the police. Greased with cash, he managed. The manager defended Lu Ming fiercely, hurting the crowd and pushing Aunt Lu toward the elevators. You too. This is outrageous. You're in cahoots. Aunt Lu shook with fury, pointing between the manager and Lu Ming. Mark my words, this isn't over. Move along, don't block work. The manager practically shoved Aunt Lu into the lift before turning back to beam obsequiously at Lu Ming. Carry on with your work, Mr. Lu. Call me anytime you need something. Your power supply is guaranteed. Anyone who tries to cut the electricity will have me to answer to. Lu Ming nodded silently and closed the front door. Bang. Quiet settled again. Muffled shouts of the manager reprimanding the crowd drifted from the corridor. Money truly makes the world go round. The old saying held perfectly true. Lu Ming walked back inside. Old Wang and the other workmen stared in stunned amazement. After years traveling across the country doing renovations, they had seen clients offer cigarettes or treat crews to meals, but never anyone who simply handed a large sum of cash straight to the property manager. Boss, you're something else. Old Wang gave a thumbs up. Back to work. Lu Ming offered no explanation and headed for the bathroom. The only room still fitted with a door, even though its frame was barely hanging on after the shaking. The crash of sledgehammers resumed, louder than before. Now that they saw how unyielding their employer was, Old Wang and his crew swung their tools with even greater force. Lu Ming locked the bathroom door and sat down on the toilet, checking his phone. 11:11, an auspicious number. He had not opened today's mystery box yet. The time was perfect. He tapped the black app icon on his screen. Open. It was Saturday, normally a day for minor rewards, yet the glow emanating from the screen seemed unusually bright. Congratulations. You have obtained Multifunctional Tactical Entrenching Tool Titanium Alloy Supreme Version. Description: total length 80 centimeters. The blade is forged from aerospace-grade titanium alloy with hardness HRC 60+. One edge forms an axe blade, the other serrated. It can dig, chop, saw, shovel, and even be used as a frying pan. Built-in flint rod, survival whistle, and window breaker. Warning: this weapon can cleave a human skull as easily as slicing a watermelon. Not recommended for peeling apples. A black entrenching tool materialized out of thin air in Lu Ming's grasp. His first impression was weight. Despite being titanium alloy, the dense construction made it substantial, roughly weighing 3 to 4 G. Matte black all over with zero reflection. Non-slip paracord wrapped the handle for a firm grip. Lu Ming brushed his finger near the blade edge. It was razor sharp. A biting, chilling sharpness, so intense his skin prickled when he drew close. Excellent gear. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In the apocalypse, melee weapons like this could outperform firearms. Guns made noise and ran out of ammunition. This tool, as long as you possess strength, it would never fail you. Lu Ming stood and swung hard at the wooden towel rack still standing. Swish! A dark blur cut through the air. The thick, solid wooden pole, as wide as a wrist, snapped cleanly in two. Its cut surface smooth enough to reflect light. Lu Ming barely felt any resistance. If this blow landed on a person's neck, images flashed through his mind. Aunt Lu's fleshy face, and Zhang Chong the bully's neck. He let out a low, cold chuckle inside the bathroom. If anyone dared break down his door, he would show them what a genuine cracked skull meant with this tool. Lu Ming stored the entrenching tool inside his spatial ring and stepped back outside. Work continued late into the night. Wrap it up, Old Wang called out. The workers were covered head to toe in dust, as though they had just climbed out of a coal mine. Lu Ming scanned the space. The once cramped flat divided into multiple small rooms was now a bare shell. Partition walls demolished, floorboards torn up, tiles stripped completely from the kitchen and bathroom. Exposed concrete and red bricks stretched everywhere, and dust hung thick. To Lu Ming, however, this was far preferable to fancy decorated interiors. It was the foundation his stronghold needed. Boss. Old Wang wandered over with a troubled look, rubbing dust off his palms. There's something I need to talk to you about. Speak. Lu Ming handed him water. Old Wang did not drink it and sighed. The steel plates you ordered, the supplier just called to say delivery is nearly here, but what? They're far too heavy. These 20-centimeter alloy plates each weigh several hundred G. The building lift is designed for passengers, not heavy cargo. It cannot support the load. On top of that, the dimensions won't fit through the lift doors. If we carry them up the stairs. This is the 18th floor, boss. We would need extra pay. And even then, the lads will wreck their backs. It was indeed a major hurdle. Hauling dozens of tons of steel up 18 flights manually would be treating men like beasts. Lu Ming frowned and walked to the window to look down. Beneath the night sky, a heavy truck with hazard lights flashing slowly rolled into the compound, its cargo bed loaded with dark steel plates. The elevator won't fit them. Lu Ming tapped his fingers on the window, his eyes flickering. Then there was only one option left. Hoist them up. Lu Ming turned to look at Old Wang. Rent a heavy tonnage crane and lift them straight in through the balcony. A crane. Old Wang was stunned. Boss, it's the middle of the night. Lifting loads inside the compound will make a racket. The property management, money. Lu Ming uttered just one word. I'll pay double the crane fees. I'll sort out the property staff too, enough to make them hold their tongues. Lu Ming's eyes glinted eerily in the darkness. The materials have to be brought up tonight. No one, not even heaven itself, can stop this. Old Wang swallowed hard as he stared at the young boss. A madman. A total madman. Still, working for a man like this was unbelievably thrilling. Got it. Old Wang gritted his teeth. I'll arrange the crane. Tonight we'll pull off this surprise steel delivery right up in the air. 2 o'clock in the early morning. While most people lay deep in slumber, the tranquility of Xingfu residential compound was torn apart by a low rumble. Virum. 2 red stair-heavy trucks parked below Building 18. Their engines idled, the low hum resembling 2 wild beasts panting. Neat stacks of pitch-black steel plates filled the cargo beds, glinting with cold, hard metallic sheen beneath the streetlights. Nearby, a yellow XCMG crane extended its massive boom. It was a 100-ton class crane. The moment its outriggers settled on the pavement, faint cracking sounds echoed from the concrete. Lift. The veteran crane operator held a cigarette between his lips and gently pushed the control lever. The steel cables tautened, and the first alloy plate rose. The huge alloy steel plate swayed slowly upward to the 18th floor. Lu Ming stood at the edge of the balcony. Strong night winds whipped his windbreaker, yet he did not stir an inch. Slow down. Nudge it left a little. Beside him, Old Wang leaned halfway out over the balcony with a walkie-talkie, directing the operator down below. Thud. With a dull crash, the over 250-kilogram steel plate landed steadily on the concrete floor, sending a faint tremor through the slab. Such noise would surely draw complaints in daylight, but it was too in the dead of night. What's more, Lu Ming had offered double overtime pay. Both the crane crew and Old Wang's workers were fired up. No one grumbled about fatigue. As for the neighbors, let them wake up. Lu Ming took a sip from his Red Bull can, his expression cold. They would struggle to sleep in a few days anyway, tormented by the bitter cold. This racket was just a preview. Boss, this steel plate is top-tier stuff. Old Wang ran a hand over the newly landed plate. It felt icy to the touch. Tapping it produced a deep, muffled tone instead of a sharp ring. Q345B manganese steel. This material's normally used for bridges. You're laying it as flooring? Old Wang clicked his tongue in amazement. He had worked in renovations for 20 years. He'd seen marble flooring, solid wood flooring, but never manganese steel. This was a first. Lay it. Lu Ming crumpled the empty can. He tossed it into a corner. Build it to be as sturdy as possible. Will do. Old Wang waved his hand. Several burly men stripped off their shirts and hauled the steel plates inside in unison, chanting work cries. For the next several hours, the 18th floor resembled a steel mill. The piercing blue glow of welding arcs flickered through the night, casting erratic light across the room. The smell of burning welding rods mixed with ozone hung thick in the air. Lu Ming demanded full penetration welding. Not spot welding, not intermittent welding. Every seam had to be fully filled with weld metal to fuse the steel plates into a single solid mass. Walls, floors, ceiling. He turned the flat into an airtight box. A six-sided absolute defense bunker. In his past life, rioters had breached his walls using jackhammers and hydraulic cutters. Ordinary walls might as well have been biscuits against professional tools. But not this time. Lu Ming glanced at the steel walls. The slowly taking shape black steel walls made him curl his lips into a cold smirk. 20 centimeters of manganese steel, layered over concrete. Even an RPG rocket launcher would need ages to blast through. As for neighbors with kitchen knives, let them hack away. Their blades would dull long before leaving so much as a scratch. Downstairs, Lin Xian wandered across the lawn with her teddy dog Dao. She wore white silk pajamas with a down jacket pulled over top. She was not truly out walking the dog. Fed up with the commotion upstairs, she had come down to escape the noise and watch the spectacle. She tilted her head, staring at the flickering blue light and the enormous crane boom. He's lost his mind. Lin Xian pulled her jacket tighter. The night wind cut sharply, making her shiver. Going to such lengths in the middle of the night. How much money must this cost? She knew nothing about renovations, yet she noticed the expense. Where did that pauper Lu Ming get so much cash? Could he have won the lottery? Greedy thoughts swirled in her head. She pulled out her phone, filmed a short video of the 18th floor, and sent it to Lu Ming. Lin Xian, brother Lu Ming still awake? I hear so much noise at your place. What are you up to? It looks like you're building a nuclear shelter. Smirking face after sending it. She stared at the screen waiting for a reply. Once, whenever she messaged him, Lu Ming responded instantly, fretting over her late at night. On the 18th floor, Lu Ming's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out and glanced at the message. A nuclear shelter? Huh. If nuclear war really struck, you wouldn't live long enough to stand there gossiping. Lu Ming swiped across the screen and deleted the chat window without sending a single character. He had no time for this scheming woman. All his focus remained fixed on the walls. Boss, all steel plates are laid. Old Wang wiped sweat from his forehead. Even on this late autumn night, heat rolled off his body. Next up is that aerogel something felt. Aerogel insulation felt. Lu Ming gestured toward dozens of sponge-like rolls stacked in the corner. This stock alone had cost him 300,000. They looked unimpressive. Thin layers, dull gray, almost resembling ragged cotton waste. Yet this was aerospace-grade material, the same thermal insulation used on Mars rovers. Its thermal conductivity was staggeringly low. A mere 10mm sheet delivered insulation equivalent to a 1-meter thick red brick wall. When the end times arrived, cold would prove far deadlier than hunger. Temperatures plummeting to -70 degrees would overwhelm standard insulation. Heat would leak out like water from a cracked bucket. In his previous life, frostbite led to necrosis. This stuff cost that much. Old Wong lifted one roll. It weighed almost nothing. Boss, forgive me for saying so, but this feels like a waste of money. Ordinary rockwool would suffice. It won't be enough. Lu Ming shook his head. His gaze was unyielding. Lay 2 layers. Sandwich this between 2 sheets of steel plate. I want this apartment to work like a thermos flask. Old Wong opened his mouth, ready to mutter about throwing money away. But the memory of the 2 million overtime pay shut him up at once. Get laying. Do it carefully. Old Wong shouted. No gaps. This treasure cost 300,000. The workers carefully attached the felt to the steel. They covered it with the second steel sheet. Lu Ming stood by, supervising every inch, every corner. As layers of gray felt were sealed inside the walls, his sense of safety grew stronger. This was more than insulation. It marked the line between life and death. With it, even if the world outside froze into an ice age, the room would stay warm. He could walk around in short sleeves, sipping iced cola, watching his bullies shiver. Watching them freeze solid into ice sculptures would be a pleasing contrast. That sense of superiority made Lu Ming take a deep breath. Even the air tasted sweeter. Work dragged on until dawn neared. Boss, most of the structural work is finished. Old Wong collapsed onto the ground, barely able to hold his cigarette. These walls and floors are now an impenetrable steel barrel. Not even an atomic bomb could breach us. Lu Ming scanned the room. The reinforced walls made the space slightly smaller, yet the heavy, solid aura brought immense reassurance. This was his safe house, his ark. Then, a gust of frigid wind surged inside, making Old Wong sneeze. Achoo! Lu Ming turned toward the balcony. A huge dark void gaped there. The sliding glass doors had long been removed to hoist steel plates. Even the window frames had been completely demolished. Chilly wind swept unrestrainedly into the apartment. Old Wong. Lu Ming walked to the large opening, his toes right at the edge. 18 stories of empty air stretched far below. When will the windows arrive? Any minute now. Old Wong scrambled to check his phone. The manufacturer says they're en route. Should get here by noon. That bulletproof glass is custom-made. I heard it can stop sniper rounds. Curiosity tugged at Old Wong. This was far beyond renovation. It was wartime fortification. Lu Ming offered no answer. He stared toward the distant horizon as the sun rose, burning red, painting the clouds as if engulfed by flame. Moments later, he turned back, his voice steady. Pressed the manufacturer. I want that glass installed before nightfall. Every minute late deducts 10,000 from the final payment. At the mention of withheld pay, Old Wong jumped to his feet and roared into his phone. Hey Zhang, where the hell is your truck? The boss needs this urgently. If you don't get here soon, I'll wreck your workshop. Lu Ming smiled. He picked up a cola bottle from the floor and clinked it. Pleasure doing business. 12 noon. Behind the red stair truck, an air cushion shock-absorbed vehicle built for precision equipment pulled to a stop. Workers wearing anti-shock suits carefully hoisted massive wooden crates onto the crane's lifting gear. Easy. Everyone take it slow. The manufacturer's technician shouted until his throat went hoarse down below. Each pane costs 200,000. You couldn't pay for one if you sold yourselves. 200,000 apiece. Lu Ming had ordered 4 panes in total. They would serve as the ultimate barrier sealing off the gaping balcony opening. When the first pane slowly rose to the 18th floor, even seasoned Old Wong gasped. Hiss. Old Wong knocked against the newly delivered glass. It produced no ring, as though striking solid stone. Boss, you call this glass? It was less glass and more a transparent wall, with an overall thickness of 10 centimeters. Slightly thinner than a brick wall, yet infinitely more intimidating. It carried a deep muted green tint, the result of multiple layers of high-strength polycarbonate laminated with tempered glass. Triple laminated structure. Lu Ming reached to touch the surface. It felt cold, smooth, hard as diamond. Aerospace-grade bulletproof film sandwiched between layers. Even a .50 caliber Barrett sniper rifle firing 3 consecutive shots at the same spot cannot pierce it. And ordinary rifle rounds. Lu Ming laughed coldly. Little more than a tickle. Old Wong swallowed nervously. A sniper rifle? Who exactly was the boss guarding against? Aliens? Install them. Lu Ming ordered. Seal the balcony completely. The workers set to work once more. The noise of drills and hammering filled the air. Just then, a gruff shout echoed from the doorway, sharp and aggressive. What's going on here? Lu Ming turned. A burly security guard stood in the entrance. The rough-faced guard gripped a rubber baton as he craned his neck to peer inside. It was Zhang Chong, head of the security team. He regularly abused his authority to extort petty bribes. Well, if it isn't Boss Liu. Zhang Chong swaggered inside. His beady eyes swept over the steel-lined room and the enormous glass panes, undisguised greed shining in his gaze. Quite the renovation project. Turning your flat into a steel vault? He walked to the uninstalled bulletproof glass and tapped it with fingers stained yellow from cigarettes. So thick. Scared your wife will hit you? Or have you done something shameful, fearing ghosts knocking at your door? Zhang Chong roared with laughter, his bulk shaking. The workers paused their labor, unsure how to react. Lu Ming did not laugh. Standing in shadow, he twirled a titanium alloy entrenching shovel between his fingers. The black blade spun like a black widow spider ready to strike. What do you want? Lu Ming's voice was quiet yet sharp with icy menace. Plenty. Zhang Chong dropped his grin, smacking the baton against his palm repeatedly. This is unauthorized renovation. You've altered the building facade. Do you know the regulations? I should order you to halt work and tear everything out. Zhang Chong rubbed his thumb against his forefinger, a clear demand for money. Still, we're all neighbors. I don't want to push things too far. Hand over 20,000 as a deposit and buy my men a few cartons of cigarettes. Then I'll pretend I never saw anything. Extortion. Blatant, unmasked extortion. If this had happened to the old Lu Ming, he would have cowered, paid up obediently with a smile, addressing him respectfully as Brother Chong. Now, Lu Ming stared at Zhang Chong's greasy face and felt only contempt. 20,000? You are not worthy. What if I refuse? Lu Ming stepped forward. Refuse. Zhang Chong froze, not expecting the usually mild young man to talk back. His expression darkened, and he advanced 2 steps, trying to intimidate Lu Ming with his stature. Refuse, and work stops right now. I'll get men to smash these useless glass panes and see how you finish installation. Zhang Chong waved his rubber baton, jabbing it toward Lu Ming's face. Kid, don't turn down a kind offer. In Xingfu compound, nothing happens without my say-so. Silence fell over the room. Old Wang moved forward to mediate, but Lu Ming halted him with a single glance. Lu Ming said nothing. He slowly raised his hand and gripped the entrenching shovel. Cold light glinted off the blade, the jagged serrations looking menacing. He watched Zhang Chong calmly. No anger, no fear in his eyes. He looked at him the way one might regard a corpse. Utterly still, lifeless. Zhang Chong shuddered under that gaze. He had run with gangs, fought, seen blood, yet never encountered such a stare, as though a starved wolf had locked its sights on his throat. A chill shot up his spine. His arrogant bluster faded instantly. He subconsciously stepped backward. What are you planning? Zhang Chong shouted, bluffing despite his fear. Hitting people is illegal. Cameras are rolling everywhere. Get out. A single word left Lu Ming's mouth. Spoken softly, yet his overwhelming aura struck Zhang Chong like a sledgehammer to the chest. Zhang Chong opened his mouth, ready to hurl insults to save face. But staring at the gleaming shovel in Lu Ming's grasp, his throat tightened. Instinct warned him that one more careless word meant death. Fine, fine. You've got guts. Zhang Chong gritted his teeth and pointed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, mark my words. This isn't over. Don't ever come begging me for favors. He spun around and fled, walking hurriedly, nearly tripping over a coil of wire by the doorway. Once outside, he spat viciously. Freak. Someone will get rid of him sooner or later. Inside the apartment, Old Wang wiped cold sweat from his forehead. Boss, he's the head of security. We're bound to cross paths again. Making an enemy of him, it doesn't matter. Lu Ming put the shovel away, his expression settling back to calm. Install the glass. It must be finished before dark. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun sank toward the horizon. The last rays of dusk spilled over the city, dyeing skyscrapers blood red. Click. As the final high tensile bolt was tightened, for huge bulletproof glass panes fully sealed off the balcony. The open void vanished, replaced by a transparent wall. To maximize structural strength, Lu Ming had ordered one-piece glass panels without operable windows. Yet 6 concealed circular holes had been drilled into the reinforced alloy support columns along the glass seams. Firing ports. Normally sealed tight with custom steel caps, appearing merely as decorative rivets from outside. But once Lu Ming unscrewed the covers indoors, gun barrels could extend outward unobstructed. Anyone trying to climb up and smash the glass would be met with a headshot. Boss, all done. Old Wang tidied his tools, staring in awe at the fortress of steel surrounding him. This was no ordinary home. It was a bunker built on the 18th floor. Steel walls, steel flooring, even bulletproof windows. Here is part of the payment. The remainder will be settled at month's end. Lu Ming tossed several bundles of cash over to Old Wang. These laborers endured hardship. Originally, Lu Ming had considered paying them nothing, yet he decided to hand over the money, a small luxury before the end times. As for warning them about the apocalypse, setting aside whether they would believe him, Lu Ming would never reveal the truth. They were not close enough for him to take that risk. No need to count. You're generous, boss. Old Wang clutched the cash, grinning widely. It had been a rewarding job. The boss was strange, yet he paid handsomely. After seeing Old Wang and the workers off, silence descended once more on the apartment. Lu Ming walked over to the balcony. Through the 10-centimeter thick glass, the world outside appeared distorted, and all noise was completely sealed off. The honking of cars on the road downstairs and the music from elderly women dancing square dance vanished without a trace. Silence engulfed him, as if he were deep beneath the ocean. Lu Ming stretched out a hand and pressed it against the cold glass. The firm touch flooded his heart with a powerful sense of security. The hard renovation work was finished. This once fragile commercial apartment had now become one of the strongest fortresses in the city. Even if floods raged outside and zombies laid siege to the city, he could hold a glass of red wine inside the steel box and watch the chaos unfold with a calm smile. Gurgle. His stomach rumbled. He had been busy the entire day and had not eaten a single bite. Lu Ming retrieved a steaming box of Pizza Hut pizza from his spatial storage, the supreme durian flavor. When he lifted the lid, rich fragrance instantly filled every corner of the flat. He took a bite. Strings of mozzarella stretched apart, and sweet fruit flesh melted on his tongue. Truly delicious. As he ate the pizza, he glanced at the time displayed on his phone. 23:59, November 12th. A brand new day was about to arrive, a Sunday. According to the rules of the mystery box, Sundays yielded intermediate rewards. Last Sunday, he had drawn the overpowered subspace ring. What would he get this time? Lu Ming wolfed down the last slice of pizza, wiped oil off his hands, and his heartbeat quickened. This anticipation was 100 times stronger than waiting for his year-end bonus in his previous life. Finally, the clock struck midnight, and his phone vibrated once. 1 second, the purple glow on the phone screen slowly faded, replaced by a somber black sheen edged with the aura of slaughter. It was no ordinary black. It was a matte shade that seemed to swallow all light. Lu Ming held his breath, his fingers trembling faintly. An intermediate reward. What would it be this week? A mech? Or a nuclear missile silo? Of course, that was just wishful thinking. As the light dissipated, an elongated black crate materialized out of thin air on the coffee table. It was heavy enough to make the table creak under its weight. Lu Ming reached out and unlatched the fasteners. With a soft click, the lid sprang open. Resting inside was a deadly weapon crafted with stark industrial aesthetics. Congratulations on obtaining. Night Stalker Composite Tactical Crossbow comes with 50 carbon fiber armor-piercing bolts. Description: military-grade individual combat weapon forged from aerospace, aluminum alloy, and carbon fiber. Equipped with a built-in miniature winch cocking system. Draw weight: 200 pounds. Muzzle velocity: 420 frames per second. Fitted with a 4x32 red dot sight and laser sight. Silent, precise, lethal. Note: this device was known as the Divine Arm Crossbow in ancient times. In the modern era, it is a death warrant. A crossbow. Lu Ming's pupils constricted sharply. In the early days of the apocalypse, this was an artifact among artifacts. While firearms were powerful, they created far too much noise. More importantly, firearms were extremely hard to acquire. Though he was a reincarnator, he had only ever been an ordinary civilian. Where would he get guns? Bullets were finite, too. Once spent, there would be nowhere to restock them amid the chaotic wasteland. This crossbow was different. Silent. It became the scythe of the Reaper under cover of night, claiming lives without a sound. What's more, its ammunition was recoverable. Bolts could be pulled free and reused after firing. As long as the bolt head stayed intact, he possessed unlimited ammunition. Lu Ming gripped the crossbow body firmly. The icy sensation made his blood boil. It was heavy. Weighing roughly 3 to 4 kilograms, it sat rock steady. He tested turning the winch. Whir. Alongside an almost imperceptible mechanical meshing sound, the bow limbs slowly drew taut. The high-tensile bowstring locked into the ready-to-fire position, the building tension sending a shudder through his chest. Lu Ming pulled one black bolt from the crate. The carbon fiber shaft was light as a feather, yet immensely tough. The three-edged bolt head glinted coldly, with blood grooves carved into every facet. Once this bolt pierced a human body, it would tear open a massive wound that could never be staunched. Let's test it. Lu Ming glanced around. The flat was empty, perfect for a shooting range. He aimed at a pile of leftover construction planks in the corner, old door frames and floorboards torn out by old Wong and his crew, stacked 10 centimeters thick. He raised the crossbow, braced it. He pressed his eye to the sight. The red dot locked steadily onto the center of the wooden stack. Lu Ming drew a deep breath, held it, and gently squeezed the trigger. Twang! There was no deafening blast, only a short, dull vibration, like someone plucking a taut rubber band. The next instant, a cloud of wood splinters exploded from the stack in the corner. The bolt sliced through the thick planks as though cutting tofu, then buried itself deep in the concrete wall behind with residual momentum. It sank 3 centimeters into the wall. The bolt tail vibrated violently, humming continuously. Lu Ming walked forward and stared at the clean penetration hole, swallowing hard. What penetrating power! If this struck a person, forget body armor. Even 2 thick cotton overcoats would be pierced clean through. And it made no noise. The victim would collapse without ever knowing what killed them. A superb piece of gear. Lu Ming grabbed the bolt shaft and pulled hard, but it did not shift an inch. He eventually braced his foot against the wall and strained to yank it free. The bolt head was undamaged, not a speck of paint chipped off. This crossbow was now his primary long-range weapon. With it, even a burly brute like Zhang Chong would be forced to his knees 50 meters away. Lu Ming admired his new toy for a long while. He then mounted a hook and hung this deadly armament in the most accessible spot by the entrance, to the left of the front door. If anyone tried to force their way inside, he could grab it in an instant and loose a bolt. That would be his first greeting. It would be simple, brutal, fatal. After testing his new weapon, Lu Ming did not rest. The hard renovations were complete, yet a critical problem remained for survival inside this steel box: air. The apocalypse brought not only bitter cold, but plagues as well. Logically speaking, frigid temperatures should prevent corpses from decomposing. Strangely enough, some bodies rotted regardless. Rotting stench, toxic gas from piled rubbish, and potential viruses would soon fill the outside world. If he kept the windows closed, the flat would turn into a poison chamber. If he opened them, external toxins would seep inside. A top-tier fresh air ventilation system was non-negotiable. Lu Ming climbed the ladder and examined the complex reserved pipe joints inside the suspended ceiling. Beside him stood several huge black cylindrical canisters. He had bought them at great cost from the dark web, military-grade NBC nuclear, biological, chemical filter canisters. These cartridges contained specialized activated carbon and catalysts. They filtered not only PM 2.5, but also sarin gas and anthrax spores. With these installed, the air inside would remain pure. Click. Lu Ming twisted a filter canister firmly onto the connector, tightened the bolts, and applied sealant. He could not trust old Wong with this work, nor dared to let him handle it. This concerned his very life, and Lu Ming completed every step personally. 1, 2, 3. Sweat dripped down his cheeks onto the steel floor panels, making faint plop sounds. Yet he felt no exhaustion. Every bolt he tightened was another lock securing his survival. He kept working deep into the night. Huff! Lu Ming jumped down. He brushed dust off his hands. Power on. Test run. Hum. The fresh air unit activated with a soft drone, like a gentle breeze. Lu Ming held his palm up to the air outlet. Cool, clean air streamed out. He took a deep breath. There was no formaldehyde left over from renovations, no exhaust fumes drifting from the street. Only pure air cleansed through layer upon layer of filtration. This was the scent of safety. Lu Ming stood in the center of the living room and surveyed his surroundings. There were steel walls, bulletproof windows, filtered air, and a lethal crossbow hanging behind the front door. This once ordinary small apartment had transformed into an impregnable fortress. It still looked cold and bare, resembling a prison, only halfway finished. But he knew this was just the beginning. Soon, he would fill this frigid steel box with his mountain of stockpiled supplies, turning it into the warmest, most luxurious haven in the apocalypse. Interior furnishing. Lu Ming looked over the empty living room, a hopeful smile tugging at his lips. In his past life, he could only admire luxury mansions scrolling through other people's social media feeds. In this life, he would live better than anyone else amid the end of the world. Tomorrow, he would fill every empty space. November 20th. 10 days remained until the apocalypse descended. Lu Ming saw off the last team of workers installing surveillance cameras and smart home systems. Bang! As the heavy explosion-proof steel door slammed shut, Lu Ming engaged 3 mechanical deadbolts. He slid a thick solid steel door bar, as thick as a human wrist, across the frame. Click! That crisp sound marked the moment this space became his absolute domain, a forbidden zone where not even a mosquito could sneak in. Huh! leaning against the door. Lu Ming let out a long breath. He glanced at the empty yet unbreakable steel box and smiled with satisfaction. Now came the most satisfying part, filling it up. For anyone with a hoarder's instinct, watching empty shelves overflow with supplies was mental gratification. Lu Ming walked into the secondary bedroom, originally a guest room, now converted into a fully enclosed storage chamber. Heavy-duty steel warehouse racks lined every wall, each shelf rated to carry 500 kilograms. Come forth. Standing there, Lu Ming focused his mind. He activated the subspace ring he wore. Whoosh. No dazzling effects, no noise. The air rippled faintly. Crates of Nongfu spring mineral water materialized out of nowhere, stacking neatly on the lowest racks like Tetris blocks. Their red packaging looked bright under the lights. Next came instant noodles, Master Kong braised beef, Uni-President pickled mustard, Tongda Japanese tonkatsu, dozens of varieties from countless brands. Hundreds of cartons of instant noodles quickly covered an entire wall. The riot of colorful packaging created an overwhelming visual impact. This was security. This was confidence. Like a king patrolling his territory, Lu Ming ran his fingertips along the rows of shelves. Stack luncheon meat here. Whoosh. Hundreds of cans of mail-in luncheon meat lined up in formation, metal surfaces glinting attractively. Self-heating rice over here. Whoosh. Hadaleo, Kaizeo, Modaxian, mountains of self-heating hot pot and rice boxes piled high. In less than half an hour, the empty secondary bedroom had turned into a miniature Walmart warehouse. The sight sent a pleasant tingle down his spine. Yet it was still not enough. Lu Ming moved into the living room, which he had designated as the living zone and energy hub. In the corner sat two Yamaha silent generators, with dozens of diesel-filled metal drums stacked neatly beside them. These were the heart of his fortress. Once the city power grid collapsed, these machines would be his source of light. In the center of the living room stood a treadmill. He would not be able to go outdoors once the apocalypse hit. He could not let his physical condition deteriorate. Running 5 kilometers every day kept him fit, and its built-in power generation module could charge storage batteries. The electricity produced was negligible, yet it represented an attitude. I am not merely surviving, I am thriving. The master bedroom served as Lu Ming's comfort zone. A 2-meter-wide bed held a thick latex mattress topped with premium down duvets. Crates of hand warmers lined the walls, alongside the polar special operations suit he had drawn from a mystery box. Lu Ming even retrieved several potted green vines and succulents from the ring and set them on the windowsill. The outside world would soon turn into a frozen hell, but there must be life inside these walls. The bathroom was stacked full of water barrels, totaling 5 tons. Coupled with thousands of crates of mineral water stored inside the ring, he had enough drinking water to sustain himself for years. Furthermore, Lu Ming walked to the sink and picked up an unopened cardboard box. Premium whole-house water purifier equipped with reverse osmosis RO membrane. It had been a minor reward from the mystery box a few days prior. Small as it was invaluable in the apocalypse. With this device, melted snow, rainwater, even water from toilet tanks could be filtered into safe drinking water. Lu Ming expertly connected the pipes and tightened all fittings. The soft hum of water passing through filter cartridges sounded soothing. He filled a glass and drained it in one gulp. The water tasted wonderfully pure, free of chlorine, smooth like purified drinking water. Once everything was set up, Lu Ming sank into the genuine leather sofa in the living room. He had bought this sofa secondhand from a bankrupt furniture store. Though pre-owned, it offered incredible comfort. Once you sank into it, you never wanted to rise. This is amazing. Lu Ming pulled out a box of self-heating spicy hot pot from a nearby crate, another reward from the mystery box. He tore open the packaging, poured in water, and closed the lid. Bubble, bubble. Minutes later, rich spicy aroma spread through the room. Tripe, beef slices, and wide noodles simmered in bright red chili oil. Lu Ming picked up a slice of beef and bit into it, gasping from the heat. Yet the fiery spice washed away every trace of fatigue. If only he had a game to play right now. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He remembered the PS5 and hundreds of game discs he had casually purchased at a computer market. He stood and connected the console. His 85-inch Sony television flickered to life. Crisp 4K HDR resolution rendered every tiny detail visible. God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring, Red Dead Redemption 2. Staring at the row of game icons, Lu Ming felt content. Outside, snow would bury everything and zombies roamed freely. Indoors, he would sit with heating on, eating hot pot, and playing video games. This was hardly apocalyptic survival. It was an apocalyptic vacation. As Lu Ming daydreamed about his comfortable otaku lifestyle to come, he impulsively grabbed the high-powered binoculars resting on the coffee table. He walked to the window. Through the thick, bulletproof glass and one-way vision film, he had an unobstructed view of the street below. Night had fallen, yet the streetlights remained lit. A black Porsche Cayenne was parked at the community gate, its bright headlights cutting through darkness. Two people stood beside the vehicle. One wore a white down jacket, tall and slender. Even bundled up, her long legs were unmistakable. Lin Xian. The other was a young man in a windbreaker with slicked-back hair. Holding a cigarette between his fingers, he leaned against the car door, talking to Lin Xian. Lu Ming adjusted the focus. He recognized the man, a famous local rich heir named Zhao Tian, whose family ran a real estate enterprise. Lin Xian had once posted photos of this Cayenne on her social media, captioned, "Thank you, young Master Zhao, for afternoon tea." Both of them looked solemn at this moment. Lu Ming could not hear their voices, yet he knew basic lip reading. Coupled with the military-grade clarity of the binoculars, he followed Zhao Tian's lips closely. "Flight tickets, booked, last chance, really, have to leave, over there safe." Lu Ming frowned. Fleeing overseas to seek refuge? Evidently, wealthy elites had caught wind of what was coming. The global deep freeze would strike every corner of the planet. Yet before disaster erupted, people at the top always received advance warnings and scurried to find safer shelters like rats. It would be useless, though. Lu Ming set down the binoculars and watched the two tiny figures below with a hint of mockery. There was nowhere safe this time. A global freeze spared no land, equator or poles, America or Europe. The entire world would turn into one giant freezer. Those who chose to run would die on the road, or perish amid blizzards in foreign lands. Run then. Lu Ming sat back down on the sofa and picked up his game controller. On screen, Kratos swung his axe at enemies. Run as far as you can. Better than them dying right outside my door and forcing me to dispose of their bodies. He bit into crisp tripe and mumbled indistinctly. Nothing beats this hot pot, though. After finishing the hot pot, Lu Ming slouched onto the sofa and let out a satisfied burp. The heating inside the apartment was cranked up high, so cozy that it made him want to doze off. Yet there was still one critical matter he needed to handle. Surveillance. In this end times, information meant survival. If you had no idea what was unfolding outside, you were simply waiting to die. Even if you lived inside a vault, with no way to tell who was trying to pry open your door, you were finished. Lu Ming walked over to the corner of the living room, where a custom-built metal operating console stood. Stretching across the wall above, it was a 12-monitor surveillance matrix. Activate. Lu Ming pressed the main power switch. Buzz. A faint hum of electric current followed, and every screen lit up simultaneously. Blue light washed over Lu Ming's face, lending his gaze an unfathomable depth. The footage was staggeringly clear. The first monitor displayed the elevator lobby. The 4K camera he had disguised as a smoke detector kept a steady watch over both elevator doors. Should anyone step out of the elevators, not even a fly could escape Lu Ming's sight. The second monitor showed the hallway. A pinhole camera covered the entire corridor without a single blind spot. The third screen, the fourth. The apartment building entrance, underground parking garage access, residential garden, and even the outer wall on the 18th floor. The entire complex was under his watchful eye. Lu Ming thought of the 20,000 yuan red envelope he had handed the electrical technician that day. "Master, I need these camera positions concealed. Utterly concealed. The kind no one can find. Even if someone stumbles upon them, they'll mistake them for doorbells or decorations." Back then, the elderly technician had patted his chest confidently. "Rest assured, boss. I've been in this trade for 30 years. I've installed equipment for plenty of wealthy clients to catch cheating spouses. No one will suspect a thing." Looking at the footage now, the money had been well spent. Lu Ming sank into an ergonomic chair and picked up the bottle of endlessly chilled cola from his first blind box. He had to admit, the drink deserved its reputation as the lazy person's joy beverage. He never grew tired of its taste. At the same time, the thrill of holding everything under observation made him feel he truly occupied a safe haven. He could even spot Zhang Chong inside the security booth. On screen, Zhang Chong sat with one leg crossed over the other, a cigarette dangling from his lips as he played cards alongside several other security guards. Loose change was scattered messily across the table. A pair of kings. Any takers? Pass. Full. Zhang Chong's fleshy face flushed with excitement as he shouted, spraying spittle everywhere. He had no clue that in a room on the 18th floor, a pair of eyes watched him coldly. Like a god looking down upon ants. Lu Ming switched the feed. On the 6th monitor, Aunt Lu, The woman, always out to grab petty advantages, was sneaking around, rummaging through the trash bins downstairs. She picked up several shipping cartons, glanced left and right to make sure no one was around, quickly flattened the boxes, and stuffed them into a huge woven sack. Tisk. Lu Ming took a sip of cola and shook his head. Aunt Lu's family was far from poor. Her son worked as a civil servant. But her urge to snatch small gains was ingrained in her bones. If she learned these boxes could be burned for warmth, she would haul them all. He switched feeds again. The 8th monitor showed the hallway. Lin Xian stood by the elevators touching up her makeup, holding a small LED vanity mirror and angling it back and forth to examine her face. She wore a thick layer of foundation, her lips as crimson as blood. Quite the diva. Lu Ming let out a scoff. She still cared so much about her appearance at a time like this. He wondered if she would remain so obsessed with beauty once frostbite covered her oozing cheeks in the freezing days ahead. Lu Ming stayed seated, observing these ordinary people. They still quarreled over trivial matters, rushed about chasing meager salaries, and put on pretenses for the sake of face and vanity. Meanwhile, the gates of hell had creaked open a crack. The sensation of knowing everything yet choosing to watch indifferently filled Lu Ming with overwhelming superiority. He was the prophet, the survivor. And all of them were non-player characters destined to die. Buzz. His phone vibrated. He had yet to open his daily blind box. Lu Ming set down the cola and picked up the phone. The black icon on the screen waited silently. Open. He felt no great anticipation, merely going through the motions. Today was Monday. According to the rules, only minor rewards were available. Flash. A burst of white light. 10 black cuboids materialized on the table, heavy as bricks. Congratulations on obtaining military-grade ultra-high-capacity portable power station 200,000 mAh times 10. Description: designed for special operations. Built-in graphene battery pack. Supports bidirectional 100W fast charging. Equipped with integrated solar panels. Waterproof, drop-resistant, and explosion-proof. Note: it is a compact mobile nuclear power station. Lu Ming picked one up and weighed it. A fantastic haul. While technically power banks, their capacity was staggering. 200,000 mAh. A regular smartphone could be charged 50 times with one unit, 500 times across all 10. What's more, they came with solar panels, able to recharge as long as light was available, custom-made for the end times. Without hesitation, Lu Ming plugged all 10 black bricks into power outlets to charge. These formed the final line of defense for his surveillance system. If the generator failed or diesel ran out, these power stations could keep the entire monitoring network running for months. Just then, the surveillance feeds flickered. It was not the faint static of a weak signal. Strange bolts of blue-violet lightning sliced through the night sky. Moments later, boom, a deafening crash, as if a hole had been torn open in the heavens. Lu Ming shot to his feet and stared out the window. The once pitch-black sky was shrouded in an eerie purplish-red glow, churning clouds resembling boiling blood. He had seen this celestial phenomenon in his past life. It was the harbinger of the extreme cold. Heat was escaping the atmosphere at a terrifying rate, and magnetic fields were growing unstable. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He grabbed the remote and turned on the television. Every channel cut to emergency news broadcasts. On screen, the normally poised female anchor appeared disheveled, her face pale, speaking at a frantic pace. Breaking news. Breaking news. According to the latest observations, abnormal solar activity will trigger a global temperature drop within the next week. Forecasts indicate temperatures will plunge by over 50 degrees Celsius. All citizens are urged to stockpile supplies immediately. Take measures to stay warm. Avoid non-essential outdoor travel. The anchor's voice trembled. The script in her hands bore a despairing figure. Predicted minimum temperature, 70 degrees Celsius. Lu Ming stared at the screen before slowly sinking back into his chair. It had arrived. Finally, the female anchor's voice continued to echo from the television, her unease barely contained. Severe global temperature fluctuations are expected over the coming week. The footage showed meteorological stations nationwide hoisting red alert signals. Outside the window, the dark sky shimmered with unnatural violet, resembling a massive bruise left by some colossal creature. Lu Ming picked up the remote. Click. He switched off the television, plunging the room into silence. He had no need for news reports. He already knew what was coming. Lu Ming glanced at the banking app on his phone. Balance, 12 yen 450.50. This was the last remnant of money left after maxing out online loans, selling his apartment, and exhausting credit lines. Still too much, Lu Ming muttered with a frown. In the end times, Paper currency would be too rough even for wiping. Holding onto it was a waste when supplies were what truly mattered. He reached out to sense the subspace ring on his index finger. A small vacant patch, a few cubic meters in size, remained tucked in a corner amid mountains of stockpiled goods. His obsessive-compulsive nature demanded it be filled. It had to be filled. Converting this last sum of cash into supplies was the best choice. Stowing them away was the greatest preparation he could make for the apocalypse. Lu Ming stood, grabbed his car keys, and slung his worn, decoy backpack over his shoulders one last time. Let's go. The wind whistled along the streets in the early hours. Roadside leaves rustled loudly, withered yellow foliage swirling down onto the windshield. His beat-up Jean Bavin wheezed like an elderly ox as it drove into the night. His first stop, an outdoor goods store. The shop owner huddled behind the counter scrolling through his phone. He watched the same meteorological news with a furrowed brow. Shopkeeper. Lu Ming tapped the glass counter. Solid alcohol, and those. He gestured toward the black crates stacked in the corner. Anthracite. I'll take all of it. The shopkeeper froze and stared at him. All of it? Young man, that's 2 tons of goods. Are you heading off to an Arctic expedition? Something like that. Lu Ming wasted no words and scanned the payment code. How much? $6,400 after discount. Transferred. Lu Ming called assistants to help load. Crates of blue solid alcohol blocks and sacks of refined anthracite soon weighed down the van's trunk. These were invaluable resources. Solid alcohol burned smokelessly with high calorific value, perfect for boiling water and cooking noodles. As for the anthracite, it was a reliable backup. If the generator failed or diesel ran dry, it would be his last means of retaining heat. Burning coal might seem crude, but it would keep him alive. With fuel secured, Lu Ming checked his balance, 6,000 yuan remaining. He turned the van. He pulled up outside a 24-hour downtown bookstore. Xinhua Bookstore. The red sign looked unsettling beneath the violet-tinged sky. No other customers were inside. Only a night clerk dozed at his post. Lu Ming pushed open the door and headed straight for the second floor. He ignored shelves filled with success theory and business management books, worthless paper once civilization collapsed. He made for practical technology and entertainment sections. Encyclopedia Britannica, complete set, taken. Barefoot Doctor's Manual, taken. Militia Military Training Handbook, taken. These 3 works would form the foundation. Next came the manga section. One Piece, Naruto, Dragon Ball. Hardcover complete single-volume collections, all of them. Then the fiction shelves. The complete works of Jin Yong, the complete works of Gu Long, and several thick physical copies of online novels. Lu Ming pushed his shopping cart forward with a loud rattle. The clerk woke up, wiped the drool from his chin, and watched Lu Ming clear the shelves as if stocking a library, stunned. Sir, are you purchasing inventory for a library? No internet access where I'm going, Lu Ming replied, slamming stacks of books onto the checkout counter. Don't want to get bored. In that frozen world without electricity or networks, trapped in endless darkness, physical books would serve as his spiritual sanctuary. While others stared blankly at the ceiling and descended into madness, he could light a candle, curl up under blankets, and follow Luffy out to sea or watch Guijing hunt eagles. This spiritual luxury was more satisfying than feasting on meat. He swiped his card and settled the bill. The books were heavy, and Lu Ming broke out in a sweat hauling them into the van, yet his heart felt lighter. Balance, 2 yen 500. Only a little money left. Lu Ming drove past a KFC. Its lights blazed brightly. The white-bearded colonel's smile looked oddly warm in the night. Screech. He slammed on the brakes. Lu Ming walked inside. Few patrons occupied the restaurant, and the air hung thick with the distinctive oily aroma of fried chicken. It was the finest gift industrial civilization had to offer. Welcome to KFC. May I take your spicy chicken burgers? Lu Ming told the cashier. 500 of them. The cashier's fingers froze above the touchscreen, convinced she had misheard. Pardon? How many? 500, Lu Ming said evenly, as if asking for 500 grains of rice. Start cooking if you don't have enough ready. I'll wait. Also, 50 family buckets and 100 boxes of Portuguese egg tarts. Chaos erupted in the kitchen. The manager rushed out. After confirming Lu Ming was serious and had completed payment, he roared for every fryer to be turned on. The sizzle of chicken hitting hot oil became a beautiful symphony. Lu Ming sat in a corner watching, holding a complimentary cola. He did not waste time waiting. Right next door stood a popular milk tea shop, Yitiandian. Boba milk tea, Lu Ming said at the counter. 100 cups, full sugar, no ice. The young shop assistant's eyes widened. Sir, full sugar will taste extremely cloying. I like it sweet, Lu Ming cut her off. Cloying? In -70-degree cold, Sugar meant heat, dopamine, survival. Back then, anyone who offered a mouthful of oversweet milk tea would be worshipped. An hour later, Lu Ming's battered Jinbei van was stuffed to the brim. The aroma of fried chicken and milk tea saturated the cabin, so strong it stung the nostrils. Yet it smelled incredible. Lu Ming grabbed a burger, tore off the wrapper, and bit down hard. Crispy crust, spicy oil, mayonnaise, calories exploded across his taste buds. He started the engine, steering with one hand while holding the burger in the other, heading toward the abandoned Shunfeng Logistics Park. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and the logistics park lay deathly quiet. Lu Ming parked inside an empty warehouse and slammed the iron gate shut. He opened the trunk and gazed at his haul: coal, books, burgers, milk tea. This was his final plunder from the old world. Store. Lu Ming raised his right hand. A faint dark light flashed across the black ring on his index finger. Whoosh. The van's cargo hold emptied instantly. He directed his consciousness into the subspace. Mountains of supplies stretched endlessly within the vast pocket dimension. Tucked neatly into the furthest gap were hundreds of burgers and milk teas, packed without a single wasted inch. Space utilization rate met his satisfaction. His obsessive-compulsive disorder was appeased. Lu Ming exhaled deeply. His breath condensed into white mist in the frigid air. Everything was complete. Bank account balance, 0 yen. Not a cent left. The total depletion filled him with immense relief. From this moment onward, he no longer belonged to the money-driven society outside. Numbers, debts, so-called credit, all could go to hell. Lu Ming closed the van door and drove home to the 18th floor. He pushed open the heavy blast-proof door, and warm air washed over him. He took off his frayed backpack that had accompanied him for years. Not long ago, it had held hundreds of thousands in cash, life-saving medicine, and his property deed. Now it was empty, useless. Lu Ming tossed it casually into the trash can beside the doorway. He would never need it again. No more wandering like a stray. He would simply sit within his impenetrable fortress, sipping iced cola, watching outsiders struggle desperately to survive. Lu Ming walked over to the window and drew the thick blackout curtains. As they closed, it felt as though two separate worlds had been severed from one another. November 29th. Temperatures had dropped to 10 degrees Celsius. Pedestrians on the streets wore thick outerwear, white puffs of breath clearly visible beneath streetlights. Lu Ming stood in the entryway, making one final inspection of the custom alloy blast-proof door he had paid a fortune to install. The door was a full 20 centimeters thick, reinforced with bulletproof ceramic and lead sheeting. Even a C4 explosive charge pressed against its surface would leave nothing more than a faint mark. Click. Lu Ming turned the heavy mechanical rotary lock. With the grinding sound of interlocking gears, 18 solid steel bolts shot outward from the door frame, driving deep into the surrounding walls. That was not all. He lifted a thick solid steel crossbar as wide as his wrist and lashed it onto the anchor hooks. Bang! Once the final physical lock engaged, the apartment on the 18th floor became an isolated fortress. Viruses, rioters, and the annoying property manager, everything from the outside world was locked out behind 20 centimeters of steel plate. Lu Ming leaned against the door and took a breath. The air carried the faint scent of lavender aromatherapy, freshly circulated by the ventilation system. Silence. Utter silence. The feeling of complete isolation relaxed every pore of his body. No more debt collectors knocking. No more neighbors borrowing salt. No more hollow social interactions. This feels amazing. Lu Ming walked into the living room and sank into the soft leather sofa. His phone screen remained lit, group chat notifications buzzing incessantly like flies. Work group, 32 members. Boss at everyone, where are this month's performance reports? Do you all want to rebel? Boss, Lu Ming. Especially you. Where have you vanished? You even blocked my number and won't answer calls. Shally from finance. Brother Lu, the boss is furious. Please reply quickly. Lu Ming stared at the screen, a cold smirk tugging at his lips. Performance reports? To hell with performance. He would sit right here and watch. He wondered if the boss could maintain that aggressive attitude once the apocalypse arrived. If he valued performance so deeply, he could die and go serve the king of hell. He could drag his entire extended family along to boost his metrics. It had to be said that Lu Ming harbored an immense grudge toward his boss. After all, the man had treated people abysmally. He let out a cold snort and opened another group chat. Happy Estate Residents Group, 500 members. The chat was buzzing with activity, everyone discussing this bizarre weather. 12:04 Sisterly. Why has it suddenly turned so freezing? The heating isn't working. What on earth is the property management doing? Property manager. Everyone, please stay calm. The boiler room is undergoing maintenance. It will be fixed shortly. 1802 Grandpa Zhang, at Property Manager Maintenance. My foot. I've caught a cold from the chill. If the heating isn't back on soon, I'll file a complaint. Lu Ming stared at these familiar usernames without the slightest ripple in his eyes. Complaints? In a few days, they would learn that no heating was merely the beginning. Soon even the tap water would freeze solid, and human waste would freeze inside toilet bowls. He chose not to leave the group. It would serve as a vital source of outside intelligence in the future. He simply activated mute notifications. Watch, but never reply. Like a voyeur lurking in the shadows, he watched these people indulge in final revelry. Just then, a WeChat notification popped up. That pink profile picture again, Lin Xian. Lin Xian, 5-second voice message. Lu Ming tapped to play it. Lu Ming, why haven't you been going out lately? I want to borrow your ladder. The light bulb is broken. Her voice was cloyingly sweet. In the background, the sound of a show blared from the television. Borrow a ladder? Lu Ming let out a scornful laugh. It had been the same in his past life. Borrow a ladder, borrow rice, borrow oil, then borrow his life. This woman did not actually need a ladder. She had simply not seen her worshipper, Lu Ming, for several days and wanted to test whether he was still around, still ripe for exploitation. Lu Ming held down the voice recording button, his tone calm. Smashed. Thrown away. He sent the message, then tossed his phone aside and paid her no further heed. Lin Xian was most likely stamping her feet in rage on the other end, but that was none of Lu Ming's concern. He had to finish inspection. Lu Ming walked to the bathroom and twisted on the tap. Water gushed out. Clear tap water flowed freely. He pulled out a water quality testing pen and dipped it into the stream. TDS reading, 5, perfect. The whole house purifier functioned flawlessly. Next, he headed to the balcony to check the air intake of his fresh air system. A military-grade NBC filter canister was installed here, capable of purifying the air even if toxic gas blanketed the outdoors. The indicator light glowed green. Filter lifespan, 100. Lastly, Lu Ming walked to the entrance hall, where his armory hung on the wall. A compound tactical crossbow, high-intensity flashlight, entrenching tool, and the tactical dagger hidden inside a secret compartment of the shoe cabinet. Every weapon was polished bright, ready for immediate use. Everything is prepared. Lu Ming stroked the cold surface of the crossbow. His gaze sharpened. All vulnerabilities had been sealed off, all supplies stockpiled. Now he only awaited the critical factor, the cold front that would freeze the entire world. Lu Ming returned to the living room. He retrieved a bottle of 1982 Lafite from his subspace. He had not bought it. He had taken it away from that Michelin restaurant the other day. Without a decanter, he took a swig straight from the bottle. The red wine slid down his throat. The wine spread a warm sensation through his body. He glanced at the digital calendar on the wall. 23:55, November 29th, 2050. In 5 minutes, it would be the 30th, the final day of the month. Per the system rules, a grand reward would be issued. Sunday's reward had been the subspace ring, an overpowered treasure. What would the month-end grand prize bring? Maybe, possibly, perhaps, a tank, a mech suit, or even a nuclear warhead. His heart raced at the thought. The clock ticked over to 23:58.